Chapter 1401, Swallowing the Heavens 2. Seeing that neither of them was moving, the elders gradually approached them. "Thou child, did you just pass the God King's tribulation, or the God Emperor?" asked an elder. He felt that things weren't in line with what he knew. They had clearly sensed that it was a God King's tribulation, but Su Ping had shown strength that no other God King had. Su Ping noticed their curiosity. He remembered how they had stepped up to help him earlier, so he dropped his coldness and said, "It was the God King's tribulation. I'm not a God Emperor yet. Thank you for your help just now." Everyone exchanged looks, lost for words. He's only a God King, and he already possesses such power. Although it had already been a great eye-opener that Su Ping became Tao Child while still being a major god, they didn't expect him to work another miracle. It was beyond their understanding. "Tao Child, you've shown more power than we can muster." An elder heaved a long sigh. Su Ping's vitality aura was only a few hundred years old. It was like the time needed for a sneeze in their eyes. It was already miraculous for anyone to become a god king in such a short amount of time. Only the high-ranked clans with numerous resources could possibly raise one in that period. However, Su Ping's combat ability was even more unbelievable. Even the normal god emperors were probably not a match for him. All the Tao children of the Heaven Path Institute had potential to become god emperors. Some of them were expected to become ancestral gods. However, all of them eventually perished. Su Ping was definitely the most unusual one. Even some of the ancestral gods couldn't compare to him when they were god kings. "Tao Child, you postponed your God King breakthrough. Chan Gong mentioned that you were condensing your Tao heart, so have you already found it?" asked an elder. Su Ping nodded slightly. Although he had grasped a Tao heart of his own, there were still a lot of questions he wanted to ask those seniors. Seeing Su Ping admit to it, everybody looked at him with more solemnity and respect. He was no longer a Tao Child, but a God Emperor peer. Even though he had yet to go through the God Emperor's tribulation, he could invoke it at any time with his Tao heart. One of the elders suddenly sighed and said, "Maybe the Tao Child will be the fourth ancestral god of our institute. I don't know how long it would take. Perhaps 10,000 years should be enough." All those present showed slightly different expressions. It was exactly what they were thinking. Indeed, if someone as talented as Su Ping couldn't become an ancestral god, who could? Su Ping did have a shot at achieving a breakthrough in 10,000 years. They felt troubled as they realized that the young man before their eyes could become an ancestral god in 10,000 years. Su Ping noticed their gazes and frowned a bit, wishing they could focus more on the heavens instead of him. Shouldn't they be shocked and panicked by the arrival of a member of the heavens? "Guys, the arrival of this man from the heavens race means that they've found our world. It won't be long before their army breaks in. It will be a catastrophe," said Su Ping solemnly. Everybody changed their expressions. They too were concerned about the invader. However, Su Ping's performance had been too shocking and left them wondering. "If the heavens do come, we'll just fight them," declared an elder with the pride that was unique to gods. Su Ping frowned as he listened. Although they were quite nice to him, he could feel their arrogance etched deep in their bones. "Elders, that was just the weakest of the heavens. There are powerful original heavens amongst them. Even the ancestral gods may have trouble if they face them." Su Ping spoke solemnly, hoping they would take matters seriously. Those elders were being too careless, even though they had personally witnessed how formidable the heavens were. Su Ping didn't even dare to imagine how other gods would respond when the news was spread. Despise, or maybe discarded with a snort. "The heavens are indeed powerful. There must be a lot of ancestral gods among them," said an elder solemnly. "That member of the heavens attacked the Tao Child for no reason. What did you do to cross him?" "He arrived in the middle of my tribulation, just like that. We had never met before," said Su Ping. He also wanted to find out why a member of the heavens was determined to kill him. "He attacked you for no reason, but there has to be one. Was he jealous of the Tao Child's potential?" speculated an elder. Whatever the reason, it is nonetheless unscrupulous to launch a sneak attack during a tribulation, said an elder coldly. That member of the heavens was clearly a god emperor, and yet he ambushed the Tao child, a junior. This is proof enough that the heavens aren't anything good. That is correct. We need to report this matter to the ancestral gods and take necessary actions. Whatever the reason is, the Tao child has killed a member of the heavens. They'll surely come for revenge. They didn't blame him for slaying the mythical invader. It was pointless to even ask the reason since the guy was already dead. They only had to consider what to do next. Elders, you must inform the ancestral gods. This will definitely be a catastrophe for the world of gods. We must not let this slide, said Su Ping solemnly. Don't worry, Tao child. We will bring up this matter with the ancestral gods, said an elder. Although there's no corpse left over as proof, I've already etched the battle into my memories. I will replay the event to the ancestral gods, said an elder. The battlefield was so greatly shattered, it was impossible to watch the replay by revering time and space. They could only replay their own memories as proof of the heavens' existence. Su Ping felt greatly relieved once he saw they were taking it seriously. He could not help but thank the aliens' intrusion. If not for that guy, he would have had a harder time convincing the elders or taking the matter to the ancestral gods. I hope that they'll attach enough importance to the problem and form an alliance sooner, Su Ping thought. The elders then said their goodbyes and went back to their activities. Su Ping looked at the still-digesting chaos beast and took it back to his mountain. He went about examining his own changes while waiting for the young chaos beast to finish. He was already in the unquestionable celestial state, or the God-King realm. His body had been significantly improved in every aspect. The greatest improvement was related to his universe of chaos. His universe was much better than normal universes to begin with. Altogether, 8 universes had been combined, becoming the 9th universe of chaos. It contained unimaginable laws and the great Tao. Still, the power had previously been lurking within the universe or wandering aimlessly without being effectively utilized. It was just how humans could hear with their ears, but very few could make their ears fold. However, once he grasped the Tao heart, all the power in Su Ping's universe was unified and became controllable, as if it were one of his arms. His previous punches merely involved him waving an arm, but now he could focus all his strength, including that of his legs, heart, and even blood flow, all on his fist. If all the strength was concentrated on a single point, it would be much more powerful than before. Besides the cultivation of my universe's power, my Tao heart. Every Tao heart had its particular attributes. For instance, the Desolation Tao heart could obliterate all power in the universe. Once he absorbed a target into his universe, he could erase it. The Harmony Tao heart could synchronize all powers, allowing you to unleash a power 10 times greater than that of normal god warriors. Su Ping's Tao heart was given the name of Contract when he grasped it, because he wanted to hold on to all the bonds around him. The bonds were power that could be transmitted. I can fully borrow the power of the young chaos beast, the dark dragon hound, and my other pets. I can also create bonds between me and the great Tao around me to make use of it. Su Ping realized as he explored the nature of his Tao heart. Chapter 1402, Undying State of the Universe 1. Although he had already condensed a Tao heart, Su Ping had to continue fighting to become familiar with his newfound powers. Fortunately, he wasn't short of training places. This is the power of a god emperor. My universe is indeed much more powerful and solidified. Compared to a celestial cultivator's universe, it's like a solid rock. They're incomparable. Although he wasn't familiar with it yet, Su Ping could tell he could unleash dozens of times more strength than before. I wonder what level my Tao heart is at the moment, and if it's comparable to the 3 unparalleled Tao hearts the Golden Crow ancestor gave me. Su Ping's eyes glittered. He couldn't compare them, but he didn't think his Tao heart was too bad. After all, he had killed a member of the heavens after just grasping his Tao heart. Since the alien had suppressed many elders, It was enough to prove he was among the strongest god emperors. Su Ping pondered and asked the system the question, "I've condensed my universe and grasped a Tao heart. I wonder what lies ahead for me." He then realized the good thing about the system. His master, Kai Huo, and the others had to figure out the way to become god emperors on their own, while he only needed to ask the system. They couldn't find the answer after exploring for hundreds of thousands of years. On the other hand, the system had pointed a way for him with a few simple words. Sometimes the job couldn't be done no matter how long and hard a person worked on it, without proper guidance, unless we were talking about an exceptional genius. However, such geniuses could only rise higher and faster with guidance. Without guidance, it was very likely that they would waste a lot of time and squander their potential. The next level is called the undying state. The system's answer echoed in Su Ping's heart. That is also the ancestral god's level, you know. By the way, the ancestral god is a status, not a level. The undying state. Su Ping was briefly stunned, as the name provoked an epiphany. The name itself made Su Ping have a lot of guesses about his future path. After going through thousands of tribulations, you grasp laws, condense worlds, build universes, cultivate a Tao heart, and eventually become immortal. The system said, that is the ancient cultivation formula. Except for the chaos creatures, the final objective for cultivators of any species is immortality. They cannot be destroyed by anything. Even if the universe falls apart, they will still be reborn. Those who reach that level are basically undying legends. They are also the ultimate life forms. Su Ping was stunned once more, as the system explained in a rather detailed manner. The final cultivation objective, ultimate life forms. What about the Golden Crow ancestors level? If the ancestral god state is the end of all cultivation, where does the Golden Crow ancestor stand? That's not something you should know right now, but it won't hurt to tell you. That is an existence beyond all life forms. You can't possibly understand it right now, said the system. Su Ping was shocked. He could not help but remember the universe he had seen through the Golden Crow ancestors' shared experiences. The great Tao looked like worms. That universe had a completely different view. It was unusually dark and terrifying. The universe looked like that in the Golden Crow ancestors' eyes. Then, what was the Crow ancestors' existence? Su Ping no longer dared to delve any deeper. It was a concept already beyond the definition of life. Could such an existence be alive or dead? Maybe its very existence was immortality. It wasn't restricted by anything in that world. A member of the heavens actually noticed me while I was looking at the corpse's memory. That is a method I cannot understand. Su Ping was at a loss. Although he had reached a height he would have considered unimaginable when he began cultivating, he still felt like an insignificant ant. The more he cultivated, the less he could understand. The scarier thing is that even the incomprehensible existences like the Golden Crow ancestor are also hiding from the heavens. Su Ping was so overwhelmed by despair that it was almost suffocating. The stronger he was, the more respectful he became. Since he was a step closer to the ancestral god state, he was able to see the enormous gap between him and the heavens with more clarity. He realized how impossible his revenge was, and how unlikely his escape would end, ever. Could he float beyond his universe for the rest of his life? Or should he find a place and live while keeping a low profile? Su Ping was awfully confused. His ambition was completely crushed at the moment, but that was not his fault. Anyone else would have felt suffocated and desperate when realizing the enormous gap. It was just like when someone crawled all the way to the mountaintop, only to find that the sky that they touched was a mere grain of dust. The real sky was somewhere beyond their imagination. His level had indeed increased, but Su Ping was rather frustrated at the moment. It took him a long time for him to regain his fighting will. Su Ping remembered the little skeleton. In any case, he had to continue cultivating hard. At least he had to improve his store to the maximum level. Once this was achieved, the system would tell him how to resurrect his friend. If the little skeleton could be resurrected, so could all the other people who had died in that universe. Su Ping remembered Xingyu Shenner and the others who had said goodbye to him a short while back. They had all left to defend the borderlands. However, Su Ping didn't see them when he rescued the others. Maybe they had already died during the worm raids. He felt pained as he remembered his old friends. He had tried to stop them, but everyone had their own purpose in life. Their voluntary sacrifice had given him some sort of power. I can't be frustrated by this. Even the ordinary soldiers charged at the worms relentlessly. There was despair and death in their eyes, too. Su Ping suddenly realized that the value of some people was not realized by their individual actions, but by influencing others. That was also extraordinary and important. Everybody lived for a purpose. There was no such thing as a useless life. Even the grass and trees had their significance. Lives are so precious, and the heavens have simply trampled them. Su Ping clenched his fists. His rage against the heavens race grew as he understood more about the truth of life. It was a hatred that was deep in his bones. Half a day later, Su Ping finished his rest and bid farewell to the elders. He told them that he was going to travel, but he actually planned to go to dangerous places to find sparring partners. Su Ping felt that he would be restrained if he only practiced with the elders of the Institute. After all, his intention was to fight life-and-death battles, which could allow him to familiarize himself with his power sooner. Elder Chan didn't ask him to stay, noticing the young man's intentions. The boy had shown enough prowess to impress him during the battle against the alien. Su Ping no longer required protection in the world of gods, as long as he didn't voluntarily seek death in forbidden lands. As for the other gods, even if they plotted against him, Su Ping could still escape. It was really difficult for a god emperor to hunt down another peer, unless there was careful planning in advance. The ancestral gods of all the clans rarely came out and would never attack them, as it was too demeaning. We have reported the matter of the heavens to all the ancestral gods. We're still waiting for a response, said Elder Chan to Su Ping. Just focus on cultivating. You still need to consolidate your strength after the breakthrough. Try to gain more experiences while traveling. Su Ping nodded. Oh, right. When you were undergoing the tribulation, did you notice a curse aimed at you? Asked Elder Chan all of a sudden. Su Ping was momentarily taken aback, recalling the strange woman he had burnt with heavenly fire. He nodded. Yes, a blood curse suddenly entered my body back then. Elder, do you know who did it? Someone from the Witch Mountain, said Elder Chan solemnly. Do you have a feud with them? Or did someone request to cast a curse on you while you were in the middle of your tribulation? They must have planned this a long time ago. Do you have any enemies besides the Rain Clan? The Witch Mountain. Su Ping raised his eyebrows, showing coldness in his eyes. No, I'm pretty sure the Rain Clan set this up. Since I'm going out to travel, I'll pay their clan a visit first. Chapter 1403, To the Rain Clan 1. You're going to the Rain Clan. Noticing his resolve, Elder Chan said quickly, patience is key to a greater success. Although you've just made a breakthrough and you can fight a god emperor, it won't be easy to beat them, even if their ancestral god doesn't come out. Some of their ancient arrays can even trap ancestral gods. It's better to hold back for now. Even if you want revenge, you must not be reckless. That's all right, I know what I'm doing, said Su Ping. He certainly knew how dangerous the Rain Clan's nest was. However, having the system's protection, it was impossible for him to die while staying in cultivation sites. His purpose was to fight against god emperors to improve himself and get back at the Rain Clan at the same time. Elder Chan put on a bitter smile since he saw how persistent the young man was. Does this guy really know how absurd his plan is? He simply thought that Su Ping was being overly confident after the breakthrough and regretted asking the question in the first place. He had only wanted to find out if Su Ping had other enemies. Elder Chan tried to persuade him. Just listen to me. Even if you go to see them, they certainly won't admit what they did. If there's no room for negotiation and you end up fighting, you'll be the only one who would suffer. Su Ping glanced at him and nodded. All right, I'll listen to you, Elder. Feeling delighted, Elder Chan said, "That's great. Given your potential, the Rain clan will certainly apologize to you for what they did once you become an ancestral god." "All right," Su Ping nodded. "I'm heading out then." "Okay." Elder Chan suddenly asked in a casual manner, "You were quick to accept my advice. You're not lying to me, are you?" "Well, Elder Chan almost vomited blood. Su Ping was only nodding along, but he hadn't really let the idea go. "Why can't you hold back for now? If you're this stubborn, I'll have to restrain you in this institute," said Elder Chan bitterly. "You are too talented to be dealing with the Rain clan right now. You should just focus on cultivating. Everything will become easier when you become an ancestral god. Do you know that many geniuses who were just like you, well, maybe not as good as you, but they are still rare geniuses. However, they died prematurely because they were too arrogant. There would be many more god emperors and even ancestral gods today, if any of them would have chosen to hold back." After that, Elder Chan sighed, nursing mixed feelings. However, geniuses are geniuses exactly because of their pride. What makes them can destroy them. What a shame. "Elder, don't worry, I won't be reckless," said Su Ping. "Trust me." Seeing how solemn Su Ping was, Elder Chan thought for a moment and said, "Then, you must promise me you won't have a conflict with the Rain clan." "Okay," Su Ping nodded. Elder Chan was reassured. Noticing the young man's expression, the elder suddenly asked, "You're not lying to me this time, are you?" "Su Ping." "Elder Chan." Indeed, he was still lying. Elder Chan was infuriated. He said, "Looks like you won't be leaving this place today." He unleashed all his power. He was about to activate the Toad Fish Palace's barrier and lock Su Ping inside. However, the moment he revealed his power, Su Ping had directly flashed out of the palace and disappeared from Elder Chan's senses. Only a voice message remained. "Senior, don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Elder Chan felt dazed, not by the message, but by how fast the young man had moved. Even someone like him was unable to catch up with Su Ping. "His universe is that powerful," Elder Chan mumbled in shock. For a moment he felt that he wouldn't catch up even if he revealed his true form and used his full strength. The guy was beyond his perception range. But the next moment he realized what was going on and changed his expression. If Su Ping did go to the Rain clan, there was bound to be danger. The guy was the most hopeful seed to become an ancestral god in the past 100,000 years. How could they let Su Ping be that reckless? Elder Chan instantly vanished from Toad Fish Palace. Then, all the other elders of the Institute received the terrible news that Su Ping had left to settle things with the Rain clan. After leaving the palace, Su Ping escaped into the void and left the continent where the Heaven Path Institute was located. "Rain clan, you didn't learn your lesson. You've been stuck to me, never once thinking about letting me go." Su Ping's eyes were cold. He had already dropped the grudge he had against them. After all, neither party had really won during the previous clashes. Su Ping was too lazy to deal with them any longer. However, those people had set up a trap during his tribulation. It was a vicious move. If he hadn't been strong enough, he would have been obliterated during the heavenly tribulation. "Their godly arrogance will be crushed by me today." Su Ping's eyes were cold. While on his way, he remembered all their clashes. All of them had been caused by the Rain clan's arrogance, which was not unique to them. Something similar would have taken place if he would have landed in a different clan. There were too many Rain clans in the world of gods. Su Ping traveled at a high speed through the original Tao world. It didn't take long for him to reach the Rain clan's territory. There was a map of the world of gods in the Heaven Path Institute's library. Su Ping had already memorized it. He soon reached the center of the continent where the Rain clan was located. Once he left the original Tao world, the world before him turned back to normal. He then saw a landscape made of lofty mountains. There were treasures glowing and divine beasts leaping found in that range. The Rain clan. Su Ping had accidentally trespassed the Rain clan's territory during his first visit to the world of gods. He was no longer how he used to be as he made another visit. in the holy land of the Rain Clan. Everything was just as usual. The members of the Rain Clan were cultivating in their respective places, while others talked amongst themselves. Some were having fun in the clan's mysterious realms. The mountains were boundless. They contained many mysterious realms and small universes. Many members of the Rain Clan never left them in their entire lives, because that territory was large enough for them to explore. At that moment in the sky above the Rain Clan, a deafening noise resounded. It was an enormous golden fist, which struck the sky above the Rain Clan's mountains. The previously blue sky suddenly showed a solid ripple. That was the effect of the clan's barrier. All the mountains were protected by the barrier. Someone was trying to invade. He didn't go in through the front gate, nor through the 300 side doors. Rather, he chose to descend from the high sky. Who's there? The unexpected noise shocked most people found in the clan's territory. Countless people raised their heads in disbelief. Someone dared to break into the Rain Clan. Who could be so bold? The golden fist reappeared while everybody watched in disbelief. It was like a golden meteor. The fist was so enormous that the people found on the mountains could even see its tiny cracks and other imperfections. It seemed to be a fist that descended straight from the sky. That was divine might. But the Rain Clan was one of the top clans among gods. Who would dare to be rampant in the presence of the Rain Clan? Two figures flew out of the barrier, which were the two god emperors of the Rain Clan. One of them was Emperor Que, who was talking to an old friend when he heard the noise. He was the first to arrive. Feeling the familiar aura outside the barrier, his face changed a bit as he narrowed his eyes. His face stiffened when he realized who it was. It wasn't a great army outside the barrier. It was but a mere individual. The person had left a deep impression on him. You're still alive, Emperor Que changed his expression. Also your aura, you're now a god king. Chapter 1404, Challenge 1. You are the one behind the divine curse set by the Witch Mountain. Su Ping's eyes were cold. The guy had basically acknowledged it without trying to cover it up. Emperor Que snapped out of his stupor and said with his usual coldness, "What divine curse? I don't know what you're talking about. Instead of doing Tao child things in the Heaven Path Institute, you came to the Rain Clan's territory to cause trouble. Not even the Institute can protect you today." Su Ping narrowed his eyes. The guy had definitely not misspoken, but he was denying the matter about the divine curse. He simply didn't want to get the Rain Clan publicly involved with the Witch Mountain, which was a taboo in the world of gods. However, Su Ping read disdain and killing intent in Emperor Que's eyes. He was clearly implying, "We did ask someone to cast the divine curse. What can you do?" As long as they never admitted to the fact, Su Ping would have no chance to sentence them. However, they underestimated the young human's temper. Su Ping didn't go there because he cared about evidence. The guy was merely reluctant to admit what they did because he feared that other clans would look down on them. You are a high-ranked clan, and yet you asked someone from the Witch Mountain to curse me. Are you incapable of killing a major god by yourselves? Su Ping looked down at him. Your prince offended me, so I killed him. You offended me too, and you will pay for it. Offend? Emperor Que was infuriated by what Su Ping said. Fury rose in his eyes like waves. Who do you think you are? A lowly human being. You think you deserve to be offended. He wasn't angry because Su Ping killed the prince. It was because of the word offend. In practice, it would only be the juniors who could offend their betters. Su Ping's condescension was intolerable for him. Someone who had always looked down upon others was now facing a humble human who dared to look down upon him. Such arrogance was infuriating. Su Ping sneered, noticing how exasperated the guy was. Some people were just like that. They could not tolerate being treated like they treated others. If I'm a lowly human, what was your prince who was at my level but ended up dying by my hand? Su Ping looked down at him and continued, What are you who failed to kill me despite being a god emperor? Emperor Que flew into an outrage. Impudent, die now. He suddenly took action. A divine spear was condensed in his hand all of a sudden, and he slashed toward Su Ping furiously. After a boom, the void crumbled and the world seemed to be falling apart. That spear was unstoppable. Coldness emanated from Su Ping's eyes. He simply responded with a punch, not bothering to dodge. His fist carried such overwhelming power that he looked like a golden giant smashing down at Emperor Kwe. With a bam, the spear struck the divine fist. It seemed to be the clash of a fist and a spear. In fact, it was the fierce collision of each other's laws and universes. Phaseless death, Emperor Kwe roared and utilized the power of his Tao heart, which was phaseless death. It could disintegrate all combined laws and reduce the enemy's attacks to their original forms. Contract. Su Ping was also quick, releasing the power of his Tao heart in an instant. The great Tao condensed on his fist was quickly gathered as it was being dismembered. It was then condensed in a strange way and was no longer disintegrated. My Tao heart happens to suppress yours. Su Ping came to that realization. There was coldness in his eyes. However, there was no delight. He was only bored. He was looking to find his limits in that place, and Emperor Kwe obviously couldn't push him much. Rot in hell. The power in Su Ping's body surged out and he punched fiercely. After a bam, the spear was instantly crushed. His fist reached Emperor Kwe, who was flung backwards, penetrated the barrier above the mountains. Like a meteor, he darted into a mountain at 100 times the speed of sound, collapsing the latter. Emperor Kwe has been defeated. That's impossible. Is that real or not? Who is that person? Most of the Rain Clan's people on the mountains were able to see their fight, except for the weaker ones. Emperor Kwe had been smashed into the ground in their first clash. Everybody found it hard to believe, especially the God Kings who had recognized Su Ping. They looked at the human with utmost shock. The divine fist didn't lose momentum, striking the barrier above the mountains and causing a loud noise. Even the humble gods who didn't have any talent in cultivation changed their expressions. They were unable to see the battle clearly, but the strike on the barrier suggested that the enemy had the upper hand. After a boom, Emperor Kwe darted out of the mountain and glared at Su Ping with bloodshot eyes. "Damn you, bastard! I will kill you." "Yuka." Su Ping's voice was indifferent, as if he was announcing a fact while stripped of all emotion. Such indifference further infuriated the god. His blood seemed to be burning. He had ever been despised like that. The most embarrassing fact was that Su Ping was only a god king, and the guy had managed to wound him. The moment Emperor Kwe was about to charge, a crack appeared in the void and several figures flashed out. A graceful woman stepped up and extended her fair hand, establishing a barrier that stopped Emperor Kwe. "Sir, please wait a moment." Chapter 1405, Challenge 2. Emperor Kwe suddenly changed his expression. He looked at the people in front of his eyes with shock and fury. "What's the meaning of this? Your Tao child is causing trouble here and you want to indulge him. Nobody can take him away today. He has to die. He must pay with his life for humiliating the Rain Clan." The elders of the Heaven Path Institute had just appeared in front of Su Ping. The latter looked at Elder Chan and the other elders he was familiar with. Their sudden arrival shocked him, as he didn't think he would be found that quickly. "Emperor Kwe, allow us to say a few words." The graceful woman who stood in front of everyone was none other than Elder Yan, whose yellow robe fluttered like a beautiful golden lotus. With coldness on her face, she said slowly, "It was indeed wrong for the Tao child to do that. Can you let him go for the sake of the Heaven Path Institute? We'll make up for it. Tell me what you want." "His life," Emperor Kwe roared. "You may ask for anything except the Tao child's life," said Elder Yan. Emperor Kwe was infuriated. He said, "What do you mean? You think the Rain Clan lacks anything? Like I said, he has to pay with his life today. You failed to raise him properly. We will demand your institute for a proper explanation after he dies." Elder Yan frowned. "The Tao child is still young and reckless. I hope that you can give him a chance. Indeed, he embarrassed your clan today. I'll ask him to apologize. You may ask for another compensation. How does it sound?" She could tell that Emperor Kwe was dead set on killing. Taking a humble approach was the only option. Emperor Que's eyes twitched after that response. He was even more infuriated and ready to kill, especially when considering the young human's age. The guy was only a few hundred years old, and he had already grown to become that terrifying. How could he be spared? Apologize. That is a given. I can only let this matter go if he kneels before the gate of the Rain clan for 100,000 years, Emperor Que sneered. Elder Yan slightly changed her expression. Emperor Que, we came with sincerity. I only wish you would be reasonable. He can't kneel for 100,000 years. He is a Tao child of the Heaven Path Institute. Emperor Que knew she was right. Su Ping kneeling would also be a humiliation for the Heaven Path Institute. He knew he had to somehow deal with the boy by separating him from the influence area of the Heaven Path Institute, or they would only argue back and forth. Apologize to all the members of the Rain clan and guard our gates for 100,000 years, said Emperor Que. Elder Yan frowned and said, Emperor Que, he can apologize, but guarding the gate is too outrageous. You think that's outrageous? Emperor Que was so angry that he laughed. He broke into our territory and provoked us. That's not outrageous. The Rain clan is a high-ranked clan. How could we ever tolerate such provocation? How will the other clans view our clan if he's not punished? He stared at Elder Yan and the others. Don't think that the Heaven Path Institute can be unreasonable because you have 3 ancestral gods. You allowed your Tao child to commit this folly. It is now time to bear the consequences. Our Rain clan only has 1 ancestral god, but he will surely defend our interests. Coldness was bursting out of his eyes as he spoke. Do you intend to start a war between ancestral gods? Elder Yan and the others showed different expressions as they pondered. It was true that the Heaven Path Institute had 3 ancestral gods, which ensured its special status. However, they also knew that many clans envied that special status. Besides, Su Ping had indeed made a mistake. Even if they asked the ancestral gods to protect the boy, the Rain clan and the other clans would surely impose pressure on the Institute later on. One had to resort to reason when it was impossible to win with strength. That was the cruel and cold-blooded law of the universe. Elders, this is between me and the Rain clan. I hope that you won't meddle. Su Ping felt touched upon realizing what Elder Yan and the others were thinking. They were willing to pay a huge price, offending the Rain clan for his sake. Tao child, don't say anything inappropriate, said Elder Chan in a hurry, fearing that the human would add fuel to the fire. Su Ping slightly shook his head and looked down at Emperor Que. I, Su Ping, am responsible for what I did. I was the one who broke into your territory and killed your prince. You claim that my actions aren't warranted. You conspired with the people of the Witch Mountain to curse me. It's fine. Even if you don't admit it, it's fine. Those who are strong always get to explain. I'm here today to challenge all the god kings of the Rain clan. Do you dare to accept my challenge? His words rumbled in the sky like thunder. All the people in the clan's territory heard it. Their eyes widened in disbelief. It had been years since the Rain clan was challenged. Su Ping is going to challenge all the god kings in our clan. Most of them were infuriated. How could they tolerate such contempt? He's so arrogant, kill him. Accept his challenge. Accept his challenge. The furious roars were gradually unified. Loud voices were echoing on every mountain. Most belonged to the lowest-strung cultivators. They only knew that it was impossible not to accept the challenge of someone who had provoked them in such a way. The god kings in the Rain clan, however, showed baffled expressions, hopping to mute all their voices. Accept the challenge. Why don't you go fight him? Didn't you see that he smashed Emperor Que into the ground? He's clearly a monster. Although he was a god king, he was as strong as a god emperor in terms of combat ability. Any of them would die if they fought him. Shut up. This is an important matter for our clan. Don't meddle. Some god kings suppressed the voices on their mountain, claiming that the matter was too important. The people present were placated and intimidated. They didn't suspect that the experts would not dare to accept the challenge. They only thought that there were more underlying complications to the challenge than what they could see. Elder Yan and the others all felt like laughing by such a reaction, but they chose to restrain themselves. If they did, Emperor Que would probably go on a rampage. What was that all about? Su Ping issued a challenge, and the positive replies were actually suppressed by their own people. That was too cowardly. However, the elders couldn't help but sympathize with those people, considering Su Ping's strength. A duel among peers was fair. However, not just in the Rain clan, very few people in the entire godly world could fight him on equal terms. Su Ping was a Tao child of the heavenly path state. He was already one of the strongest at his level since he could attain that position. He was currently the strongest of all the Tao children by far. People at his level were no different than ants to him. "You don't dare to fight me," Su Ping sneered and said. "Is this the pride you proclaim to have? Even your weakest clansman knows that your bones must be tough. However, your higher-tiered clansmen seem to have soft bones. That's fine. I'll go easy on you. I will challenge all the god kings of the Rain clan at the same time." His voice echoed throughout the sky, reaching the ears of all the people in the Rain clan. Even if their god kings tried to block his voice, it was infused with power of the great Tao and couldn't be blocked at all. Emperor Que could have blocked it, but he was too proud to do so. Such an action was beneath his god-emperor status and would be tantamount to accepting defeat. "Do you dare?" Su Ping roared. The entire Rain clan was silent. Those who had been scolded and muted looked at each other in bewilderment. One person to challenge all the god kings of our Rain clan. How unbelievably arrogant. However, the big shots of their clan were not responding. Many clansmen were worried and suspicious at the moment. Could it be that our Rain clan is truly scared of this person? Chapter 1406, Killing a God King with the Snap of a Finger 1. Why not accept his challenge? He's insulted our clan like that. We can't let him walk away. Even if he's a God Emperor, we'll ask the God Emperor elders to take care of him. All the Rain clansmen were suspicious and indignant. Back when the God Kings suppressed them, they thought that the enemy had a different agenda and wasn't brave enough to speak further. However, Su Ping had repeatedly humiliated them. It was senseless to remain silent whatever reason there might be. The Rain clan was a high-ranked clan. Did it ever need to act respectfully before anyone, except for the other 7 high-ranked clans? "Bastard, let me see what you got," was the furious roar of one of the indignant clansmen. A dazzling stream of light rose from the mountains, turning out to be a god king wearing golden armor. He was a furious fellow carrying a spear, presenting an intimidating picture as he stood on a dragon. Although he was attacking because he couldn't stand the humiliation, he wasn't stupid. The dragon he rode had a powerful bloodline and was as strong as him. The man thought it was impossible for Su Ping to beat 2 enemies with his level. "No!" Emperor Que suddenly changed his expression and hurriedly sent a telepathic message. He was well aware of Su Ping's might. Although a mere god king, it was a very weird human with an unimaginable combat ability. Their previous clash proved how tricky the young man was. A lowly god king had given him pressure. Unbelievable as it might sound, it was real. They had to act with caution. However, Emperor Que's voice didn't stop the god king, who furiously charged out of the barrier and simply aimed to stab his enemy. His spear manifested an ocean of flames. The entire sky was dyed red by the fire, as if about to destroy the world. That was the power of a god king. All the Rain clan's people looked up, holding their breath and feeling the horror of their fellow expert. Su Ping, however, simply wore a cold smile. He suddenly snapped his fingers, launching a beam of dazzling light, one that surpassed any other light. After a bam, the charging god king was run through. His body was stiff even before he could slash with his spear. Then he exploded. Su Ping looked at the dragon underneath his feet and roared, "Get lost!" The aggressiveness in the dragon's eyes vanished completely, while looking at Su Ping as if he were its ancestor. It quickly turned around and fled back to the mountains. It escaped at an even faster speed than how it arrived. Such an unexpected turn of events, stunned all the hopeful members of the Rain clan. The battle ended even before their brains could process the information. In the sky, a golden rain of blood splashed down. Even the God King's soul had been destroyed. The gap between them was too wide. They were attacking in completely different ways. The guy was still attacking with the universe's power and the great Tao, but Su Ping was already able to harness the great Tao around him. His attack had surpassed the speed of sound. It was even faster than the recall of a memory. He's so strong. The outcome sent a chill to the rest of the clan's God Kings, who were looking at Su Ping warily. They were furious because of Su Ping's bravado and were raring to fight him. Since the guy had arrogantly challenged them all, they thought they could go together and defeat him. However, that result was beyond their understanding. They simply couldn't understand the human's attack at all. Their bafflement was similar to how they felt when they witnessed demonstrations from God Emperors. That young man was definitely as strong as a God Emperor. Damn it! Emperor Que looked awful as he stared at what was left of the God King. The gap was massive. He knew that the guy was practically committing suicide, but he never expected him to die that easily. The power displayed by Su Ping made him further realize that the human had grown up. It was definitely not a God King's power, but a God Emperor. Not just Emperor Que, Elder Yan, Elder Chan and the other elders who went as reinforcements were also shocked. Such a result made them even more eager to escort their junior to safety. Seriously, how could a God King be so appalling? Even some ancestral gods weren't as strong as him when they were God Kings. Su Ping definitely has ancestral god potential. We can't let such a genius perish. This is the God King standard of the Rain clan. Just so. I can defeat you with one finger. Su Ping showed absolute disdain and arrogance. His tactic was to beat arrogance with arrogance. Emperor Que trembled with fury after hearing Su Ping's mockery. He hadn't been that furious in years. Being a God Emperor, he understood the causes and consequences of everything, and was no longer emotional about anything. However, there were certain things that he simply couldn't let go, like the honor of his clan and that blatant insult. All the people of the Rain clan were confused and lost, unable to understand what happened, but their God King Senior seemed to have lost and died. Did the high and mighty God King die so quickly? This made a lot of them understand why none of their God Kings had dared to accept Su Ping's arrogant challenge. So their guess was true. The assumption of a single person could be wrong, but the shared assumption of thousands of people was definitely close to the truth. Chapter 1407, Killing a God King with the Snap of a Finger 2. He's a Tao child of the Heavenly Path Institute, a holy cultivation land where the secret techniques of all clans are collected. And still, you've raised such a bloodthirsty Tao child. Emperor Que spoke with repressed fury, coldly looking at Elder Yan and the others who stood in front of Su Ping. Everybody knows that the Tao children of the Heavenly Path state are the best on their level. However, don't forget that raising such a high-performing Tao child would have been impossible without the gifts of all clans and all the clans' secret techniques. Emperor Que, that's a different matter altogether. I know what you're thinking, please don't aim to slander. Elder Yan frowned, realizing Emperor Que's awkward situation. After all his clan was watching at the moment. Suffering such a crushing defeat was humiliating and he had to look for an excuse. However, that was a terrible excuse. Such claims would only be seen as valid by his clansmen. Su Ping wasn't really trained in our institute before he became a Tao child. He cultivated hard on his own, and his title was attained only recently. Even if all the secret techniques are being collected in our institute, he wouldn't even have the time to study them, said Elder Yan coldly. His current strength can only be ascribed to his own cultivation. It's only natural that your God King would be no match for the Tao child, who has excelled in the Heaven Path Institute and rose to the top of the Chaos Talents rank. How many people of the Rain clan have made it to the Chaos Talents rank? Emperor Que burst into fury. What do you mean? Elder Yan said coldly, nothing, just making things clear. You may accuse the Tao child for offending your clan today and we can offer an apology. However, you must not resort to slander. You. Emperor Kwe was so infuriated his throat was trembling. Elder Yan's actions were truly unwise, thinking he didn't know about Su Ping's background. He was only saying that to keep appearances. Such taunts were nothing for Su Ping and the others, and yet she had to go and deprive him of the chance. So in other words, you're not planning to let this go. Emperor Kwe gritted his teeth and said, your Tao child offended our clan and killed a god king. He's a god king too, so let him pay for what he did with his life. Elder Yan frowned. Indeed, both are god kings, but… Ahem. Two of the visiting elders quickly coughed and interrupted Elder Yan, knowing her willful attitude and how she had little respect for anyone in the institute. Not even the president was spared. Well, Emperor Kwe, we certainly want to settle this peacefully. I hope you can propose a solution, said an elder with a humble smile. Of course, we hope that you can set feelings aside. Tell us a solution that we can accept. Killing the Tao child is not an option. Asking the Tao child to guard your gate is too insulting for the Heaven Path Institute. Emperor Kwe was so furious his lips were twitching. Although Elder Yan was interrupted, he knew what she was about to say. They were both god kings, but they were different. Is Su Ping's life more precious than the Rain clan's god king? Deep down, he knew this was a valid point, but he was still angry. Guys, stop talking. Your Tao child is not the least bit regretful. I don't think he'll be convinced unless I take action to suppress him. Emperor Kwe mustered his power, already determined to kill him. Elder Yan and the others slightly changed their expressions. Emperor Kwe, don't be rash. We can still negotiate. I'm just going to teach him a lesson, not kill him. You're not even letting me punish him. Emperor Kwe was seething. Elder Yan and the others could certainly see his killing intent. If he started a fight, he would surely try to kill Su Ping. Emperor Kwe, please think carefully before you make a move. The Tao child has won the appreciation of our ancestral gods. Consequences will be serious if anything happens to him. It's been years since the last ancestral gods' war. If it breaks out, a lot of people will die, not just involving the Rain clan and the Heaven Path Institute, said an elder vehemently. Emperor Kwe was slightly taken aback by this, not expecting that they would ask the ancestral gods to protect that human. He could tell that they weren't bluffing. If they killed Su Ping and the ancestral gods stepped up, there was the chance of powerhouses from other places joining the fight. The emperor's face turned sour as he thought of the implications. It doesn't matter, said a cold and solemn voice. A figure appeared outside the barrier, looking down at all the people present. You broke into the Rain clan's territory and killed our god king. Today, even if the ancestral gods of the Heaven Path Institute take action, we will not let this go. Everyone showed different expressions upon seeing the newcomer. It was none other than the Rain Emperor, master of the Rain clan. Elder Yan and the others also reacted as they saw him arrive. One of the elders said anxiously, Rain Emperor, it was wrong of our Tao child to do what he did, and we're willing to apologize. However, it's not necessary to start an ancestral god war. We must kill him today. The Rain clan's face was cold. The ruined dignity of the Rain clan will be reinstated with his blood. If he's willing to apologize in public and you show sincerity by destroying one of your levels, we can then talk about compensation. Are you serious? Elder Yan's face was cold, knowing it was impossible for that man to take back what he said, or he would lose all his dignity as the leader of the clan. However, the terms were so harsh, it was basically a war declaration. Elders, no need to worry about me. Su Ping was quick to step in. It's my own decision to come here. It has nothing to do with you. I'm only here to seek justice for myself. Rest assured, elders, I'm not an ancestral god yet, but I will not fall. They can't kill me. Elder Yan and the others were stunned. They showed bitter faces as they looked at the young man's solemn and confident face. None of them understood where his confidence came from, but they knew that reconciliation was impossible since he had worded it that way. Su Ping wasn't even willing to lower his head and apologize. let alone anything else. Are you serious? Elder Yan gazed at Su Ping and said, I can understand that you're young and proud, but have you thought it through? This is the Rain clan, a place that has produced 18 god emperors. Considering those who died and are presumably dead, 7 have been seen in the past 100,000 years. Can you defeat them? Su Ping knew she was warning him. Flashing a warm smile, he said, just 7. I hope that I can enjoy myself. Elder Yan and the others were speechless. Arrogant. Such a thought was no longer entertained. Instead, they saw pride and confidence to dominate a complete era. If Su Ping survives this, the next era will probably belong to him, right? The thought popped up in everybody's heads. They fell silent for a moment. The Rain Emperor was expressionless after Su Ping spoke, but there was thoughtful light deep in his eyes. Emperor Kue and another emperor were cold and determined to kill. If any other clan were to judge Su Ping's actions, they wouldn't think that their actions were justified. Not even the Heaven Path Institute could protect him, or they would be seen as enemies by the rest of the world. Bring it on. Su Ping turned around, the smile on his face was gone. He looked at the 3 emperors aggressively. Who will come first? You, my old friend. Emperor Kue looked into Su Ping's eyes and sneered. That's right, the chance to claim your worthless life is mine. A golden ocean appeared around the expert, and the phantom of a magnificent universe surfaced behind his back. There were hazy black and white colors inside. The power of chaos was sensed in the places where the colors met. Emperor Kue had been trying to build a complete universe of chaos with phaseless death, which would further strengthen him and raise him to the top tier among god emperors. Chapter 1408, Executing an Emperor 1. Not bad. Su Ping sensed the terrifying aura emitted by that guy's universe. It was solidified to such a degree that he almost became excited. Even his blood was flowing faster. Die now, Emperor Kue roared and turned into a gray phantom, moving abruptly. Time was falling and space was being split through the route made by his body, moving at a speed beyond all common sense. It wasn't a flash move, but a transposition by tapping into the Great Tao. The Great Tao traversed many different layers, times and spaces. Such speed was undetectable if the onlooker didn't have an equal expertise in the Great Tao. It was one of the reasons why god emperors could easily crush god kings. There was a boom, and Su Ping blocked the punch. Their clash had already broken the shackles of time and space. They disappeared and reappeared in different times and spaces. Only the emperors present could catch sight of them. All the god kings were completely confused, losing track of their fight. He's so strong. He truly has the combat ability of a god emperor. Elder Yan and the others watched as Su Ping fought fiercely against Emperor Kue. The whole situation left them in shock. Although they had noticed something in the past, they had never confirmed that Su Ping already had a god emperor's strength. All changed when they finally witnessed such a life-and-death battle. Bang, bang, bang. Emperor Kue roared and moved quickly to attack. The spear he summoned carried the terrifying power of Tao and the attributes of phaseless death, destroying the laws that Su Ping was setting up. The latter could only bind those laws with the power of contract. He would have been killed instantly if he only had the normal god-king level. Damn it, what is that Tao heart of yours? Emperor Kue felt the strange pulling force in Su Ping's attacks and was rather angry. His phaseless death was completely suppressed and rendered useless. The Tao heart to kill you. Su Ping's eyes were cold. He fought wholeheartedly, enjoying that fierce battle. He felt that his body was gradually waking up. More and more power was being released. Boom! Su Ping punched and knocked Emperor Kue aside, then he roared, "Is this the best you've got?" The emperor was incensed. Although most of his clansmen couldn't see the battle, the emperors and the elders of the Heaven Path Institute could. A god emperor fighting a junior was unfair to begin with. However, he was still unable to finish off Su Ping quickly. Brat, you're dead. Emperor Kue gritted his teeth and finally went all out. Blue light surged from his body, along with an elegant and superior aura. It was the divine Rain constitution of the Rain clan. His body grew significantly as a result, with secret patterns appearing on his skin. He had reincarnated 99 times, sealing his experiences and power of every lifetime on his skin. Each pattern represented a life's worth of cultivation power. All of them were released at that very moment. There was a booming sound, and the entire sky shook. The time spanning from the past 1,000 years and the 1,000 years to come was shaking too. Some additional information was added to the memories of the Rain clan. There was something that happened 1,000 years prior, but they didn't know why. I'll show you the real power of an emperor. Emperor Que was furious, looking down like a gigantic divinity. His eyes pierced through time and space after converging the power of his 99 secret patterns onto his person. He then slashed with furious abandon. The great Tao was pouring like a storm, and an infinitely powerful golden light rushed down. Su Ping detected a brutal killing intent, and his blood started boiling beyond his control. Inside his blood were countless tiny spheres, each one gathered energy, resembling tiny planets. Good one. Su Ping gazed at the divine spear, unsure about having the power to block it, but his body was almost boiling. It seemed to be telling him that he longed for such a blast. He roared and condensed the contract Tao heart. All the great Tao within 100 years had been marked by his Tao heart. Such branding allowed him to directly absorb and utilize the great Tao's power, which was immediately concentrated on his hand. In a trance, Su Ping felt as if he were holding a sun about to burst. The power was so terrifying that it even scared and shocked him. He had no time to think. He simply swung his sword and counterattacked. There was a boom, and everything happened instantly. The spear, gathered with Emperor Que's infinite strength, collapsed all of a sudden. The seemingly unstoppable and indestructible weapon fell apart like glass crashed into iron. This is impossible. Emperor Que trembled and lost his cool. His body seemed to have been hammered, and he suddenly felt a wave of helplessness. The dazzling sword aura struck his head. Before he could react, his body glowed, and a roaring golden dragon charged forth. It was the dragon's soul sealed within his armor. However, the roaring dragon felt desolate the moment it touched the sword aura, as if it were but mere snow, completely unable to stop the sword aura. Once the golden dragon disappeared, cracks appeared and expanded on Emperor Que's armor. The armor fell apart in the blink of an eye. Oh no! The Rain Emperor, who had been observing the battle, quickly changed his expression. He hurriedly tossed a bloody scroll. Chapter 1409. Executing an Emperor 2. The scroll carried a strange aura and was seemingly about to unfold. However, it was too far from the battlefield. Su Ping and Emperor Que were already fighting in another time and space. Su Ping's sword aura had already reached his enemy before the scroll did. Emperor Que immediately sensed death looming over him, like he had not experienced in countless years. Such a deadly aura almost suffocated him, and his eyes were narrowed to slits. His battle-tested body was faster than his mind at the moment, as it unleashed a terrifying aura of its own. The universe behind his back was suddenly set ablaze like a fireball, and a violent power surged from his body. He held his spear and attacked once again. There was a boom, and the spear broke. The soul of an unusual beast imbued to the spear screamed and disappeared. The spear was broken, and he died. The sword aura covered Emperor Que and sliced into an infinite space. No one knew where this sword attack would end. Perhaps someone would be terrified by the passing sword aura in another time and space. Su Ping's current level was already beyond the understanding of mortals. His voice and attacks could already be etched in the universe. Such moves were like the remnant whispers of ancient experts he would hear in deep spaces, and the bodies of universe dominators. With power at Su Ping's disposal, his voice would last for billions of years, unless the universe became desolate. Splash! At that moment, the bloody scroll approached and unfolded all of a sudden, instantly turning the world bloody. The scroll faded and shattered, as if melting into the world. Su Ping immediately felt that the world around him was being restrained. The sensation also made him think he was imprisoned. He was no longer able to easily tear time and space open, and his own power was also suppressed, making him feel subdued and uncomfortable. His own power was constantly being drained. He wouldn't have lasted for more than half an hour if he were just an ascendant expert. What kind of unusual treasure is this? Su Ping's eyes glittered. That bloody scroll was too powerful. It formed its own universe and was extremely dangerous. Emperor Kui. The Rain Emperor saw that only half of the spear was left where the sword aura finally dispersed. Emperor Kui was nowhere to be seen. The leader lost his cool for a moment. An emperor was an extremely rare force, even among the high-ranked clans. Emperor Kui was actually executed by Su Ping. It was absolutely unacceptable. And to think he had been killed in such a dominating way. Emperor Kui is dead. Elder Yan and the others saw everything happen. None of them were able to detect a single trace of the deceased in other times and spaces. His aura had completely vanished. The attack was as effective as a human taking a bullet, life disappearing without any lingering signs. Elder Yan was the fastest to respond, sobering up and roaring, "Emperor Kui, why did you use the Netherworld scroll?" The Rain Emperor looked awful. His right-hand man was truly dead, without even having a chance to leave his last words. Su Ping's attack was beyond what the fellow could endure, and neither did he have time to react properly. He must be executed since he killed both a king and an emperor of our clan. You'd better not intervene, or I will go and wake up our ancestral god. Appalling coldness emanated from the Rain Emperor's eyes. He was raring to kill Su Ping on the spot. He hated the young human more than he hated anybody else, but fear was also creeping in. Such a genius cannot remain among the living. Emperor Kui went and voluntarily engaged the Tao child. He was only beaten because of his shortcomings. Is it possible that the almighty emperors of the Rain clan have to join hands to fight a god emperor? Roared Elder Yan. The Rain Emperor was gloomy, as the words pierced into his heart like daggers. It was indeed humiliating. However, mockery would be meaningless as long as Su Ping died. Rain Emperor, your attitude is unbecoming of the ancient emperor that you are, said another elder who tried to persuade him. Shut up. The clan leader glared at Elder Yan coldly. Would all of this happen if the Heaven Path Institute would have disciplined him well? Emperor Lai, Emperor Feng, kill him right now. Two more figures appeared out of nowhere. They were two emperors of the Rain clan. One of them looked like a middle-aged man, while the other was a handsome young man. They glanced at each with gloomy faces. Emperor Kui's fall was beyond their expectations. That little monster was an eye-opener for them. Dignity was something they couldn't afford at the moment. Killing Su Ping was the most important point in the agenda. Whoosh! The two of them took action all of a sudden, charging into the bloody universe. Elder Yan was furious. He was about to take action, but an elder pulled her back. No, they will truly awaken their ancestral god if we take action. If matters reach that point. The elder shook his head with a troubled expression. The entire world of gods would be involved if a war among ancestral gods was started. Even more people would die. Should we just watch them fight unfairly? Elder Yan shook his hand with anger on her face. She suddenly understood Su Ping's actions. No wonder he killed those experts of the Rain clan. She would have probably done the same. He's a Tao child of the Heaven Path Institute. How can we watch him die in such an unfair setting? Said Elder Chan with indignity. Even if an ancestral god war starts, it won't be because of us. It was the Rain clan. They will forever be criticized in the future. He was about to take action as he spoke. But something unexpected happened within the barrier. The two emperors were being forced to retreat, despite working together to deal with Su Ping. This scene left everyone dumbfounded. Su Ping was imprisoned by the Netherworld Scroll, a great treasure from the Age of Chaos that could weaken the power of Emperor-level fighters by 30%. It could even weaken God Kings by 90%, and could also intercept and slowly kill a God Warrior. Such treasure was being used by the Rain Emperor at the moment. Those two clansmen were clearly not going to be affected. However, Su Ping had beaten them despite being suppressed. The Rain Emperor also fell into a daze. Su Ping's attack was obviously beyond his expectations. How is it possible? Both Emperor Lai and Emperor Feng looked awful. They finally realized why Emperor Kue had succumbed after facing that brat. They felt a chaotic power invading their bodies. Is he truly a god king? His power was even greater than that of normal emperors. Emperor Feng quickly sent a message to the Rain Emperor. Chief, this brat is very strange. Ask Emperor Gui and Moshu to come here right now. We will slay him on the spot. This way we can avoid giving the guys of the Heaven Path Institute any time to react. Their leader snapped out of his shock, coldness reflected in his eyes. Su Ping's strength had scared him a bit, yet he decisively gave the order. The chaotic effect had already been spread to the entire clan. All the other emperors were currently observing the place. There was a strange atmosphere in the world once the order was given. Emperor Lai and Emperor Feng roared as they charged at Su Ping again. The latter didn't retreat. He also charged to meet the enemy. Power was burning fiercely in his body. He was already used to the suppression inflicted by the bloody universe. That suppression was similar to Emperor Kue's Dao Heart. However, Su Ping discovered that his contract Dao Heart could forcefully control the power around him, and he suddenly felt that it was better to call it monarch. It was as if he were the center of the world, while all powers were under his control. Furthermore, he could even vaguely control the power of that bloody universe. My Dao Heart can't be weak, based on this effect, thought Su Ping as he reached a conclusion. He still didn't know where his Dao Heart stood when compared to the Golden Crow ancestors' 3 unparalleled Dao Hearts, feeling that it wasn't inferior. While harnessing power through his contract Dao Heart, Su Ping attacked again and struck against the power inside the bloody universe with his fists. After a boom, Emperor Lai and Emperor Feng were forced to retreat again. The violent power both shocked and infuriated the pair. Chapter 14:10, Emperor Yen won. He hasn't been suppressed. The Rain Emperor's face changed a bit the moment he noticed that Su Ping was still coming on top when facing Emperor Lai and Emperor Feng, and realized what was going on. The young human's power was complete, without any signs of invasion. Even the power of the netherworld seemed to be supporting him. Emperors are being suppressed by him. Is he carrying any special treasures? The Rain clan leader's eyes glittered. He was so terrified of Su Ping's mysterious ways that he even risked asking someone from the Witch Mountain to attack him, a taboo organization. The Rain clan would become a public enemy if anyone found any evidence. However, Su Ping survived the Witch Mountain's curse. He even became a god king and showed a terrifying power, comparable to that of an emperor. He even suspected that the young human was the reincarnation of an ancestral god. The guy could be carrying the memories of his past life. Otherwise, it would be impossible to explain how formidable he was. Both Emperor Lai and Emperor Feng were once more trying to attack Su Ping. Although both were being suppressed by the latter, they were drawing the power of their respective universes, all to fight evenly with the human. Elder Yan and the others were shocked by such development. Su Ping's strength opened their eyes time and again. They were shocked by the power he displayed, which was greater than most elders. While they couldn't translate their feelings into words, 2 figures appeared out of the blue and broke into the bloody world at an incredible speed. Elder Yan suddenly changed her expression and realized something. She demanded furiously, "What are you doing?" She couldn't have been more angrier and shocked. How could the Rain clan be so shameless? Both figures appeared inside the blocked space right when Elder Yan spoke, attacking when Su Ping had just forced Emperor Lai and Emperor Feng to retreat. Huh. Su Ping suddenly detected killing intent aimed his way, which rushed towards him without any warning. It had been suppressed and concealed, to later burst into the open like angry beasts, sneaking up on him. The killing intent alone was enough to consume him. Su Ping widened his eyes in fury. He looked back and saw 2 pairs of cold eyes. They attacked him from 2 directions, using sword and spear respectively. Those weapons contained the immense power of the universe. It was obvious that they were using their full strength. Two vastly different powers surged and suppressed the great Tao surrounding the young man. One of them was akin to hell, dark and strange, while the other was as unpredictable as falling snow. FCK off, Su Ping roared, never expecting that the Rain clan would deploy 4 emperors at once, nor the sneak attack. They truly didn't care about face when they were dead set on killing the enemy. Su Ping waved a fist and broke the sword, and the long spear pierced his body. An infinitely sharp power was rushing into his body, ready to tear him apart. He grabbed the spear and gazed at the person holding it. The latter looked back at him coldly, unwilling to give in. Contract. Blood surged in Su Ping's head. He sensed death. The power of the guy's universe was terrifying, which was expected of an emperor. However, Su Ping's own potential was exploited at the moment. He fully activated his Tao heart, and the spear he was grabbing onto was also covered with the power of contract, feeling that he was about to control it fully. Huh. The person who wielded the spear suddenly changed his expression, feeling that his long-time weapon was getting out of control. Drop it. Su Ping clenched the spear and shook it, unleashing several streams of power that burned like flames. Spikes seemed to be protruding from the spear, piercing the enemy's hand. The owner was forced to loosen his hold. Su Ping dashed hundreds of meters back and plucked the spear out from his body. The massive hole was slowly recovering, and the remaining destructive power was gradually being suppressed. Normal god kings would have been obliterated had they been struck by the spear. You. The spear owner was a man who wore a dark golden robe. He looked gloomy at the moment, as it was embarrassing to be robbed of his weapon. Still, half his arm would have been blown apart if he hadn't let go. His weapon had betrayed him. The scene fell quiet. The 4 men surrounded Su Ping while showing contorted expressions. No one expected the ambush to fail, thinking that one attack was enough to deal with the human. The other experts that followed Elder Yan then realized what happened, as the whole exchange had happened all too quickly, ending when they could finally see it clearly. All the experts from the Institute were furious as they looked at the 2 fellows who showed up at the last moment. Rain Clan, do you have any shame? 4 emperors attacking a single god king. Can you really be called emperors? Not only did you gang up on a single person, but you even launched a sneak attack, and you have emperor-level cultivation. You think we would have stood idly if you killed the Tao child? How unscrupulous. This matter must be spread out so that all the clans learn of your horrible ways. All the elders were incensed, and were openly pointing fingers as they shouted about all the Rain clan's wrongdoings. The Rain Emperor looked gloomy, well aware that the matter was showing them in a very poor light. However, the winner was king. As long as they killed the enemy, would morals really matter? Talking about fairness in a fight was ridiculous. Was there any of the godly clans free from guilt? Had they never been unscrupulous in the past? Chapter 14:11, Emperor Yen 2. The most upsetting matter for the Rain Emperor was that they had failed to execute Su Ping within that powerful suppression. Just then, the power displayed by the human suppressed what most emperors could muster. It wouldn't be outrageous to say that he was a top emperor. Besides, he didn't see Su Ping use any special treasure. It was the young man's own power. To be precise, it was the power coming from the latter's strange Tao heart. He suppressed the netherworld and even robbed Mo Shu of his weapon. What kind of Tao heart is that? The Rain Emperor's eyes were cold as he clenched his fists. He knew he had to kill Su Ping that very day, even if he had to fight in person. Don't give him any respite. Attack and get this over with, the Rain Emperor ordered. The 4 of them exchanged looks and charged at Su Ping again. They were peers and fellow clansmen, quite familiar with each other's power, and their teamwork was flawless. Su Ping was immediately suppressed by their universes at the same time. He was on the verge of losing. Nobody could win against that many enemies. Su Ping was indeed strong, but he was being forced to retreat due to their neatly coordinated attacks. The 4 emperors were using the power of their respective universes, Ones were strange and unpredictable, while the others couldn't be countered. The young human was being constantly injured as they fought. Seeing this scene, Elder Yan demanded the Rain Emperor in fury. "Rain Clan, don't be too shameless. Are you trying to make me step in?" The Rain Emperor looked at her coldly and said, "It was your Tao child who was rude first. I said that unless he begged on his knees, he would have to pay with his life for what he did. How can the dignity of a high-ranked clan be ignored?" "But you're not giving us a chance to apologize." Elder Yan was angry. "I did give it to you, but he didn't cherish it. It won't be given again," said the Rain Clan coldly. "If you attack, our ancestral god will be awakened. None of them will get away." His expression was enough for her and the others to know he was being serious. The elders were furious, as they could also tell that the Rain Emperor was determined to kill Su Ping. It was very likely that he would ask for the ancestral god's help if they intervened. It was understandable if they were in his shoes, considering Su Ping's potential. None of them would have dared to let such a terrifying enemy off the hook. However, how could they possibly watch Su Ping die when he was such a promising talent? "Guys, this is of paramount importance. Go tell the president. If the Rain Clan requests the help of their ancestral god, the Heaven Path Institute must fight back." Elder Yan gnashed her teeth. The elders looked at each other in bewilderment. They never thought they would trigger a war of ancestral gods because of them. Elder Chan quickly agreed. "That's right. We can't let the Tao child fall. He's just a god king and he can already fight with emperors. He will surely become an ancestral god." The other elders were in shock, but hesitation was thrown out the window. Some of them turned around and left. The Rain Emperor became even colder upon seeing their actions. However, he knew it was impossible to stop them since they were also emperors. He could probably stop one of them, but not several at the same time. "Emperor Yen, I ask for your help to suppress this thief immediately," said the Rain Emperor telepathically. The one summoned was an extremely old emperor of the Rain clan. Although he had yet to become an ancestral god, he was an old monster in his own right. The expert was already an emperor back when he was still a god king. A long sigh resounded. "How long has it been? Have we been buried for such a long time that such a genius has already sprouted?" Then, from the depths of the Rain clan's mountains, a deep and terrifying aura began to spread. With presence belying an ancient nature, a figure took a single step and entered the netherworld scroll, crossing all the mountains. Su Ping, who was fighting the four emperors fiercely, suddenly trembled and sensed a terrifying aura. The aura was akin to that of a corpse and a mighty god. It was powerful and nigh invincible. He suddenly raised his head and narrowed his eyes. He then saw an old man with unkempt hair who wore ragged clothes. The ancient fellow stood in the distance, with stars that were as profound as the universe. "Emperor Yen." Emperor Lai, Emperor Feng and the others were shocked, not expecting their chief to ask that old emperor to take action. He was one of the ancestors of the clan, still a peer, but none of the emperors thought they could beat him. He was one of the top emperors. "Emperor Yen." Elder Yan and the others outside the barrier also saw the newcomers and their expressions changed, shocked by the clan's ruthlessness. They actually asked such an old monster for help. She gave a gloomy roar and charged into the netherworld scroll. "Emperor Yen, let's trade some blows," declared Elder Yan. Although she had a girly appearance, her eyes were brilliant and she looked like a deity. "Yan Qing." Emperor Yen raised his eyes when he saw Elder Yan. He chuckled and said, "I heard that you became an empress too. How is your grandfather?" "My grandfather died while fighting the rebelling dragons in the ocean. He's gone, but his soul will live forever. He's not as despicable as you," roared Elder Yan. Emperor Yen said casually, "Fairness is not important when you're dealing with your enemies. Invaders are enemies. Not even the lowly ants and worms check their numbers before they fight to have even matches. Fighting with many against one is a way to protect our own people. Eliminating the enemy with minimum casualties is justice." Elder Yan knew that talking would be pointless. She said, "I've heard so much about you, Emperor Yen. Let's see if you're as strong as you're said to be." Emperor Yen's eyes turned cold and he said indifferently, "On your knees." His words were like a royal decree. A terrifying force was instantly imposed upon Elder Yan. Her body was softened and her knees were bent. She almost fell. "Break!" Elder Yan was shocked. She unleashed golden power to support her body. She glared at the man. "Emperor Yen, you're good. However, I kneel to no one in this world except my parents. Not even the ancestral gods can make me bend my knees." Emperor Yen repeated with indifference, "On your knees." His words seemed to be magical. Elder Yan was trembling and her legs gradually flexed some more. She gritted her teeth. A universe appeared behind her back, providing infinite power that supported her knees and her body. "On your knees. On your knees. On your knees." Emperor Yin coldly yelled out orders with heavier and heavier tones. His every order made Elder Yan's body tremble violently. She was already trying her best just to resist those commands. The four emperors at the center were shocked, and their wariness for their own fellow elder grew, although they were somewhat proud too. They had heard that Elder Yan was one of the top elders in the Heaven Path Institute, having made astonishing achievements. Such a display made them realize how worthless they were in front of Emperor Yin. Su Ping saw Elder Yan as she struggled to persist, her body bending and her grimacing face. He felt that his heart was burning. That was his own affair. He didn't want to implicate anyone. He went there for revenge, and he could make his escape on his own at any moment. Still, those people didn't know that. They had gone there to help him, even risking their lives. "Elder Yan, I don't deserve your kindness." Su Ping took a deep breath. His eyes revealed his chaos power, pupils and whites gone. There were only stars in his eyes. His body changed too, and expanded significantly. A profound and ancient aura of chaos was manifested. Su Ping finally revealed his original form, the body of the primitive Chaos clan after the blood fusion. That body contained the 108 original Tao patterns. Given his current level, cracking Tao patterns was a breeze. After being able to peer into the original Tao world, unlocking Tao patterns was as simple as eating or drinking. "I only came here only to test the power of my Tao heart, but if you want a fight you will get." Chapter 14:12. If I'm a king, there are no emperors. 1. Once the restraints on his body were removed, Su Ping felt that the power in his body was surging toward his limbs like 100,000 galloping stallions. Such immense power caused bloody vortices around him. "It's merely a gathering of Tao." Su Ping's chaos eyes saw through everything. He was also able to pinpoint the trajectory of Emperor Yin's power. The guy seemed to be speaking, but he had actually connected his universe to his body, keeping a constant flow. His every word was a gathering of all the great Tao in his universe. So to speak, his every word was a full-strength attack. He seemed casual, but he was actually going all out. Such a way to use one's power inspired Su Ping. He had rarely fought emperors and had little combat experience. Of course, he had already challenged emperors fearlessly, yet he wasn't able to see their attacks clearly and they died for nothing. He was finally learning something from his battle against emperors. He gathered all the great Tao around him and fused it into his body like Emperor Yin did. Then he bellowed to release it. "Better fall on your knees too." The terrifying Tao power descended along with his resolve. After a boom, Emperor Yin's yelling was disrupted, dispelling his influence over Elder Yan. He trembled and changed his expression, as though having received a hammer blow. "You!" Emperor Yin turned around. For the first time, he realized how ferocious that alien monster was. Did the guy copy my attack? Furthermore, the power gathered by Su Ping was even more domineering. Emperor Yin burst into fury as his secret had been deciphered. He ignored Elder Yan and roared at Su Ping. "Go to hell." A universe appeared behind his back. There was an ancient and mysterious moon illuminating the bloody hell zone. The terrifying Tao power turned into Tao glyphs, bringing forth death and corrosion. The great Tao around Su Ping withered at a fast pace. His vitality was also affected. However, Su Ping simply ignored everything and widened his eyes in fury. On your knees. Boom! The great Tao suppressing Emperor Yin was further enhanced, making him shiver and nearly fall. However, he reacted in time to support himself. His body was half bent, looking more pitiful than Yan Qing did moments before. The scene shocked everybody into speechlessness. Emperor Yin, whose every word was imbued with power, had been forced to his knees by Su Ping's orders. Yan Qing widened her eyes. She had already experienced Emperor Yin's power and knew how great it was. However, Su Ping had done exactly the same to him, causing much more embarrassment. Did he just learn it, or has he known this for a long time? Yan Qing was shocked. Either way, he was just that amazing. I told you to kneel, Su Ping bellowed and punched. Stop. The other four emperors realized what was going on. Shocked and infuriated, they rushed to his senior's aid, not expecting that little monster to be as terrifying. Emperor Lai quickly blocked Su Ping's punch, but his expression changed in an instant, as it was much more powerful than before. He felt as if half a continent had struck him. After a boom, Emperor Lai was flung back with a hole on his chest. How is this possible? Emperor Lai found it hard to believe. Su Ping's performance earlier was already crazy enough. It was becoming even more terrifying. Su Ping charged straight at Emperor Yin, with overwhelming fury and killing intent. Emperor Gui, Emperor Feng and the others reacted and quickly sent attacks of their own. However, they were shocked to find that Su Ping didn't even bother resisting their attacks. He simply had his physical body withstand the attacks. How is it possible? His body's like a special treasure. He has a god emperor's body. That's impossible. He should be hurt even if he does. Everybody was shocked. They could tell that Su Ping's body was special. The latter ignored them. He unlocked the original Tao patterns in his body and restored his body to that of the primitive Chaos clan, surpassing most god emperors with physical strength alone. Only god emperors from the Age of Chaos could pose a threat to him. He didn't have the time to unify the Tao patterns in his body just yet, or it would probably evolve into an ancestral gods. The primitive Chaos clan was a strong Chaos species that was even more terrifying than the Golden Crows. They could become ancestral gods as long as they fully developed the power in their bloodline. However, they would need special opportunities if they wanted to become sorcerer ancestors, which were hard to come by. Every sorcerer ancestor was unique in that world. Go to hell. Emperor Yin was no longer able to retain his casual demeanor as he watched Su Ping charge at him. His hunched back made him look awful and aggressive. It is you who should go to hell. Su Ping simply ran forward and punched. Emperor Yin watched the fist approach him but was unable to stop it. He was mustering all his strength to resist the power of words that Su Ping was imposing on him. He couldn't dispel the effect, and only watched the fist enlarge in his eyes. After a boom, Emperor Yin's head exploded. His power was loosened for a moment and couldn't support his body anymore. He truly fell to his knees in public. But the next second, Emperor Yin's body condensed a new head. He looked at his demeaning posture, which made him so furious his soul was about to leave his body. He growled, "Little bastard, I'm going to kill you." Chapter 14:13. If I'm a king, there are no emperors too. Yuka. Su Ping's cold words were like a judgment that fell from the top of his head, along with his fist. Boom! Emperor Yin's head was blown up again. His body fell through the void into the bloody mist at the bottom of the restricted space. Emperor Gui and the others showed ghastly expressions when they saw this. They found it hard to believe. Emperor Yin was defeated this quickly. Not even Emperor Yin is a match for this brat. It wasn't just them. Yan Qing and the other elders of the Heaven Path Institute were stupefied. They even forgot about calling for reinforcements and stood dumbfounded. If I'm a king, there are no emperors. Su Ping turned around, then gazed at Emperor Gui and the others with an abyssal aura. If I'm an emperor, you're all kings. His voice struck everyone's hearts like a heavy hammer. Not just Emperor Gui and his group. Yan Huang and the elders felt their hearts race too. having the impression that the young man's words were as inviolable as the heavenly Tao decree. All the people present were greatly shocked by Su Ping's aggressive stance and invincibility. They were somehow seeing the slow yet unstoppable rise of a domineering emperor. Yan Huang watched in a daze. At that moment she was no longer an emperor. She seemed to be just a weak girl in the presence of the glowing Su Ping. The sensation was akin to the time she looked up to see an ancestral god in the mysterious realms. Back then she didn't have the dignity of an emperor and was just like a mortal girl. Su Ping's back and the magnificent figure of the ancestral god overlapped in front of her eyes. She was more certain than ever that the young man would become an ancestral god, one that would shock the entire world of gods. A furious roar interrupted everybody's thoughts. How audacious! The Rain Emperor's eyes were cold, radiating intense killing intent. Deploy the 4 Emperor's blood array and kill him right now. Emperor Gui and the others were alarmed, not expecting to be pushed that far. Such an array was a powerful resource of the Rain clan, one that wouldn't be activated unless there was a great enemy or when they clashed against other high-ranked clans. As the name implied, 4 emperors were required to deploy the array. Whether they succeeded or not, all of them would suffer a great backlash later. But, seeing how Emperor Yen was defeated, and seeing how arrogant Su Ping was, they knew it was probably truly impossible to suppress that brat without the array. Deploy the array. We will spill our blood to hunt down all criminals. Die. The 4 of them set up the array and spoke at the same time, somehow fusing their auras and universes in an instant. A bloody link appeared among them, connecting their souls and power, making them seem as one. They even shouted "die" at the same time. It was as deafening as military drums. Su Ping raised his head and roared, "You're just a lousy and disorganized lot." The universe of chaos surfaced behind him. The power of mythical creatures was brewing within. There were many different times and spaces in his universe. He kept all the refugees in the deepest space of his universe to avoid implicating them. The power of tribulation and illusion was being manifested on the superficial layers. His universe, which was condensed from multiple small worlds, was fundamentally different from other emperors' universes. It was heavy and more solid. It looked like one universe, while it was actually a set of multiple universes. The multiple great Tao in his universe was unified with the use of his contract Tao Heart, unleashing unimaginable power. Come on! Su Ping condensed a sword made of infinite great Tao. It was impossible to lay eyes on it, like the singularity in the universe. It was the place where all the power was condensed. A black ravine appeared in that bloody world as Su Ping swung the sword, cutting across the sky. That universe, which was constructed by a special treasure, was actually broken by his sword. Outside, the Rain Emperor showed a dramatic change of expression. The Netherworld scroll, which was connected to his mind, had a tear. Su Ping was within the scroll, and yet he had inflicted damage on the treasure. It was definitely not something an emperor could do. Rain Ancestor's sword. Emperor Gui and the others also unleashed their full strength aggressively. They used the ultimate secret technique of their clan. The power deep in their bloodlines was activated, projecting a glowing, magnificent figure, the Rain clan's ancestral god. It was an illusion, however, it was very close to reality. When it raised a hand, the divine sword condensed in its hand was no different from a real object. The 4 emperors pushed the giant sword to slash down. Su Ping was like an ant underneath a planet when facing that sword. He wasn't even 1/1,000,000th the thickness of the edge. That sword seemed about to cut apart the universe and destroy everything. Su Ping's sword, however, rose unstoppably like a dragon fish leaping from the ocean. Infinite light burst out of Su Ping's eyes. His sword was going to obliterate the universe. After a boom, the enormous sword from the ancestral god clashed with Su Ping's sword aura. Chaotic currents brushed everyone's bodies for a moment. Any god king other than Su Ping would have been suppressed, even by the wake of the attack. Yanqing and the others gazed at the dazzling light, knowing that the sword had cut apart everything, putting an end to the fight. They saw the most unbelievable scene in the midst of that dazzling light. There was actually a crack on the enormous ancestral god's sword. After that, the crack grew larger and quickly extended to fill the sword with several other cracks, until it fell apart, turning into powder. At the same time, the four emperors manning the array vomited blood at the same time, pale-faced. They were at a loss for a moment. The strongest attack of four emperors failed. The giant sword crumbled, and the magnificent figure of the ancestral god was also dispersing. Su Ping dashed out of the chaotic currents, gray long hair fluttering in the wind. His eyes were as deep as the starry universe. While still carrying an aggressive sharpness and killing intent, he located the four enemies and slashed at them. Stop! The Rain Emperor was infuriated by that action. He waved a hand and raised a fog of blood in the red world, wreathing Su Ping in an attempt to stop and swallow him. Get lost! Roared Su Ping with eyes like lightning. He approached Emperor Lai, who was the closest one to him. While the latter looked at him in horror, he slashed down. The sword contained the power of many kinds of great Tao, including corruption, disintegration, and death, which completely destroyed the emperor's body and soul. The Rain Emperor couldn't remain calm anymore as he saw that another emperor had died. The surging fury almost twisted his face. The Rain Emperor gritted his teeth and spoke telepathically. Elders, please come out and kill this bastard. There were many other emperors in the Rain clan who were training in seclusion. Some were even Emperor Yen's seniors. There were even previous clan leaders, as well as emperors from the Rain ancestors' age. They were all terrifying old monsters, always living in seclusion as they pursued the highest ancestral god realm. They wouldn't have been summoned unless a catastrophe was upon them. The Rain Emperor had been forced to call out to them, or he would be unable to end the situation. The problem wasn't yet. He was certainly incapable of letting Su Ping go. The place somehow became quiet as his telepathic voice was spread to all the mysterious realms of the Rain clan. The whole world seemed to be enveloped in a strange power. After that, powerful auras arose from all the mountains of the Rain clan's territory. Some of the mysterious realms were opened. Gray and ancient auras flowed out, tantamount to an old coffin being reopened. Clan Master, what is it that you need our help for? Linner, what's the matter? There's the smell of blood. All the figures stepped out of the depths of the Rain clan. In the blink of an eye, the whole world seemed to have been relocated to another universe. Time was frozen. None of the Rain clan's onlookers were able to see what was beyond the barrier. They became as solid as statues. You! Yanqing quickly changed her expression. Never did they expect the Rain clan to be so insane, deploying all forces against Su Ping, who was working alone. All of the Rain clan's strongest experts were present, except for the ancestral god. The last leader of the Rain clan, Lin Tianjin. Yanqing was almost terrified. Chapter 14:14, Invincible Power 1. Everybody knew that Lin Tianjin, the prior head of the Rain clan, was an extremely ruthless figure. In his time, he rallied his clansmen to destroy 100 races. He had killed too many people. Furthermore, he had also beheaded many emperor-level beasts and made glorious achievements, leading the Rain clan to new heights. He later asked another emperor to take his position once he was past his prime. However, he had left a deep impression on the rest of the clans in the world of gods. Yanqing saw a hunched old man approaching in the void. He had yet to reveal any killing intent, but he carried a sharpness that could freeze the world. His hunched back gradually straightened as he got closer, his old and decayed face becoming young again, transitioning from old to middle-aged, and then to the spring of youth. Flames enveloped his body, burning his gray robe and condensing a scary divine armor. A divine spear was then manifested in his hand. Once he wielded that weapon, the god who looked like a dying old man a short while before was restored to the god of war who fought relentlessly in the world of gods. You're not entirely ignorant if you've heard of me. Are you from the Heaven Path Institute? Lin Tianjin observed details on Yan Qing and the other people's clothing and recognized their faction. The coldness in his eyes changed somewhat. Although he had long resigned, their institute had enjoyed a special status for a long time. But why is the Heaven Path Institute causing trouble in the Rain clan? Emperor Heaven Destroyer, those are the elders of the Heavenly Path Institute, and that's their Tao child who has killed a prince, a god king, Emperor Lai and Emperor Que from our clan. He did all of this while merely being a god king, which is terrifying. He must be killed, reported the Rain clan emperor telepathically. Lin Tianjin's title was Emperor Heaven Destroyer, because he had boldly claimed that he could even fight the heavenly Tao, and people used this to derive his title and sang it everywhere. A god king. Lin Tianjin narrowed his eyes and focused his attention on Su Ping. Indeed, the aura of that young man was that of a god king. Such a level, and he actually killed Emperor Que and Emperor Lai. More so, he had seen the Netherworld scroll. Instantly, he saw pictures and answers in his head. He didn't bother asking his clansmen why they made an enemy out of such a genius. It was evident to him that the Rain Emperor wasn't an idiot. They wouldn't have done such a stupid act if not for special circumstances. So it all came down to the situation forcing them to become enemies. Being the case, he had to be eliminated. You've summoned all of us just to take care of this junior. Another senior emperor stepped up. He was like a ghost that nobody could detect. He added with a hollow voice, "Do you need all of us to take action?" The Rain Emperor was highly attentive before his senior and noticed the latter's dissatisfaction in his voice. That emperor was as old as the Rain ancestor, and his strength was on par with Lin Tianjin. This is a special situation. He's very strong. I hope that you won't underestimate him. Let's just execute him as soon as possible, said the Rain Emperor. He certainly knew he was making a fuss by summoning all of those old fellows. However, Su Ping's performance was so shocking, it would be impossible to suppress him without their help. Fine, never mind. Since we're already out, let's just get this over with, said a gorgeous emperor who had a sexy body figure and a beautiful face. The sword she was carrying was even bigger than her. She then drew the sword and placed it in front of her ample bosom. A terrifying sword aura began to spread like ripples. Die. Some emperors simply stepped up and charged at Su Ping without making any preparations. Is the Rain clan really going to fight so unfairly? Yan Qing was anxious and angry, hopping to postpone their attacks with words. However, it was obvious that all those emperors had been through too many dangerous battles and wouldn't be delayed by a few words. Some of them only glanced at Yan Qing with disdain before they charged at Su Ping straight away. Junior, it's your honor to die in our hands, said an emperor casually, before throwing a sudden fist attack. The might of his move descended like a towering mountain. Su Ping's gray hair was fluttering. He raised his head, and his cold smile looked rather unruly. You're just a bunch of untalented old farts who are about to die. He actually dared to call them untalented, all those famous, ancient emperors. That made Lin Tianjin and the others slightly change their expressions. Such bad-mouthing angered them to no end. Yan Qing and the other elders were also shocked. Su Ping's words were becoming increasingly arrogant, even they were scared. Boom! Su Ping broke the golden fist with one punch, and his smile became even colder as he felt the power of the guy's universe. He discovered that those emperors were indeed much stronger than the previous four, but they were still too distant from the ancestral gods level, and worlds apart from the level that Su Ping had seen through the Golden Crow ancestor's eyes. Su Ping suddenly roared, "Break now!" His sword aura surged forth and completely shattered the bloody inferno. Power was constantly flowing out of his body. The power absorbed from the ancestral god corpse had been too much for him to bear and was stored as an energy core in his body. Now the energy was being constantly released as he fought. The flow of such power was polishing Su Ping's body while it was being used. Chapter 14-15, Invincible Power 2. Su Ping had yet to test the battle skills that the owner of the ancient corpse had taught him. Once he recalled them, adding his own battle experience, his sword aura was immediately reinforced with a special power. The God Kings had just tapped into the Great Tao. The God Emperors could already peer into the Great Tao, find their own Tao heart, and fight with the Great Tao. Thanks to the battle experience shared by the ancient expert, Su Ping knew that there were countless fighting methods using the Great Tao. Some had to do with combining multiple sources of Great Tao, and some were about melding the Great Tao onto oneself for a boost in strength. Most God Emperors would only know of those methods. However, the memories stored in the ancient corpse presented many unorthodox ways. Some could even borrow Great Tao's power from their enemies and use it against them. All those methods were based on the ancestral gods' understanding of the Great Tao. After a boom, Su Ping's sword aura slashed out, embedded with a special and mysterious Great Tao that made it impossible to resist. Although the attacks seemed to be mere sword auras and fists, they actually contained countless Great Taos. It was a collision made with the power of the Great Tao. One of the emperors showed a grave expression after noticing that his attack failed. Lin Tianjin observed quietly and said slowly, "He's but a God King and he's already found his Tao heart. Also, he has a special constitution, which is the constitution of the divine chaos constitution which had already gone extinct. Such a physique is better than ours. This kind of chaos constitutions are born with Tao glyphs. They all cultivate inwardly. Don't underestimate him." All the emperors became more serious upon hearing the information. Without a doubt, he was an unparalleled genius. They had no clue why he became their clan's enemy, but the situation was beyond the point of no return. Mirror. An emperor took action all of a sudden. An universe appeared behind his back, projecting orange light to envelop Su Ping and slay him using his own Tao heart directly. Under the light, countless mirrors showed up and reflected Su Ping's image. Those reflections walked out of the mirrors, emitting Su Ping's exact same aura. The next moment, all those reflections charged at the young human. "To actually die by your own hands, you should thank me for my kindness," said the emperor indifferently. Despite their hostile stances, he himself found that young man admirable. After all, very few people in the world of gods had grasped a Tao heart while still being a God King. Su Ping smiled and found the God Emperor rather cute. Contract. Su Ping's Tao heart radiated, controlling all the reflections around him. They then charged in all directions. That emperor's face quickly changed his expression. The young man's reflections he had created went out of control in a domineering and unstoppable way. The next moment, all those countless reflections were broken, and all the Su Pings disappeared. Su Ping laughed and soared to the sky, stepping on the emperor. "To be kicked by me, you should thank me for my kindness." Boom! He kicked the emperor right in the chest, bones breaking instantly and blood splashing. The emperor was kicked into another time and space and disappeared. Su Ping turned around and saw sword patterns rushing towards him. They belonged to the beautiful God Emperor who held a giant sword. "You're pretty, why are you blindfolded?" Su Ping chuckled. Still, there was no mirth in his eyes. He directly charged her way. That beautiful emperor had an enticing body figure. She held the sword like a musician holding an instrument, making her look even more appealing. Her eyes were covered. There was a black cloth on her pretty face. She was facing another direction, as if unable to locate him. "Impudent!" the God Emperor roared furiously when Su Ping joked about her look. She produced hundreds of sword waves with her giant sword, which charged at Su Ping like a tsunami. The latter counterattacked with a slash, his dominating sword aura cutting all those waves apart. Su Ping soared upward and made a move to brutally cut her face, completely devoid of the expected gentleness towards ladies. The beautiful emperor slightly changed her expression, obviously surprised since her attack had been easily solved. She suddenly moved back, but Su Ping vanished and reappeared on the route she took. His sword slashed at her again. She raised her giant sword and blocked Su Ping's divine weapon in that moment of crisis. "You're asking to be killed." The beautiful emperor was clearly infuriated. She gritted her teeth, never expecting the need to go all out in the very first battle after her secluded training. By then she had a clear notion that the young man was anything but an ordinary god king. No wonder the chief summoned all the elders, including me. She took off her blindfold, which wasn't a simple piece of black cloth. It was an unusual treasure that sealed her eyes. She had been born with a sword body, carrying both the bloodline of the Rain clan and that of the Sword Witches from the Age of Chaos. When she opened her eyes, shortly after birth, sword auras darted out of her eyes and killed her mother's maid, almost hurting her mother too. But fortunately, her mother was very strong and managed to resist it. Her eyes of chaos became harder to control as her cultivation advanced and her power grew. The sword auras she occasionally released could easily kill god kings and hurt god emperors. She sealed her eyes, most of the time to avoid accidents. She removed the blindfold and sealed to open her pretty eyes. There seemed to be an ocean of glimmering stars in them. It was intoxicating. Su Ping was stunned to see her take off her blindfold. To be honest, he felt amazed for a moment, even though he was in the middle of a battle. The whole world seemed to be brightening. Right as Su Ping was momentarily mesmerized, the light in the eyes became even more dazzling, and countless sword auras burst out and charged at him. The sword auras carried the scent of chaos and were extremely terrifying, seemingly able to cut anything apart. Su Ping was shocked, not expecting an attack to come through her eyes. After a boom, Su Ping swung his sword to block all the auras. His great Dao divine sword was soon greatly dented and cracked all over, just like a common iron sword. Su Ping solemnly looked her in the eyes. "You dare to look me in the eye?" The beautiful god emperor was infuriated and shocked. "He can block my chaos aura." She knew that the power of chaos was troublesome even for god emperors. She soon realized that Su Ping was emitting the aura of chaos too. It was obvious that he used chaos power to resist her sword auras. "Your eyes are beautiful. Why not let me gouge them for you?" said Su Ping. He suddenly charged at her, releasing an overwhelming power of chaos. His whole being looked like an unstoppable fire. The beautiful god emperor was scared for a moment, but then rage was set in. She bellowed, "Arrogant man, die." She wielded the giant sword and slashed at him furiously. The brilliant stars in her eyes were gradually gathered and formed a small, glittering sword, making her auras even more condensed. The illusion of an enormous sword appeared in the world and swung accordingly to her moves. Behind Su Ping, the golden crow phantom shrieked and flew towards the giant sword. Boom! Su Ping was flung backwards. He was actually pushed back by the sword aura. The beautiful empress sneered, but then changed her expression as Su Ping charged again after being sent flying. The flames around him set the space ablaze, turning it into an ocean of fire. "That's impossible. You survived my sword attack." There was shock written all over her face. Su Ping did have a deep sword wound exposing bone on Su Ping's chest, but it was healing slowly. In the blink of an eye, Su Ping reached her and slashed again. His body quickly turned into a phantom. He passed the enormous sword and raised his hand. Chapter 14:16, Emperor Among Kings 1. A beautiful head flew up, but a hand grabbed it before it flew away. "You!" The beautiful godly empress had been beheaded, but she was still alive. Her soul lingered nearby. She looked at Su Ping in fear. What just happened? God emperors are just so. Su Ping, on the other hand, remained casual. "Our power is supposed to be on the same level, yet your performance is downright disappointing." Illusions were able to construct a world. The path of illusion grasped by Su Ping was very powerful to begin with. Even before he attained his Tao heart, the path of illusion could have been easily broken by other god emperors, because their attacks contained many other traits. They could easily obliterate, burn, or corrupt the path of illusion. But ever since he grasped his contract Tao heart, besides harnessing the ultimate great Tao, he could make use of powers from all different kinds of great Taos. He could disintegrate his enemy, great Tao. That was where the path of illusion played a major part. The beautiful Empress would have only been able to resist it if she had a good grasp of the path of illusions too, which was clearly not the case. You deserve to die. Do you think I can be so easily? The beautiful senior was furious. She could obviously sense how strange and troublesome the young man's great Tao was, but she had seen it in action. She could eventually crack it, given enough time. Power surged on her neck, and her headless body charged with the sword again. Still, before she could finish, she was surrounded by an overwhelming power, and then her head disappeared from Su Ping's hand. These eyes of yours are quite useful. I'll see if I can transplant them to my pet later. Su Ping casually sealed her head deep inside his universe of chaos. He then shook his head ever so slightly as he saw the headless body charging toward him, then summoned a ball of heavenly fire in his hand to send it her way. The fire was cut apart by the sword aura. However, it seemed to be intelligent as it continued moving toward her. Very soon, the beautiful powerhouse's body was set ablaze along with her dress, which produced strange screams. It seemed that the garment's soul was crying. Her neck slowly grew a new head, but it was bloody and hideous because of the fire. Su Ping sent another slash. Suddenly a spear appeared out of nowhere and was rushing to stab Su Ping's throat. The ferocious spear was like a sharp meteor, making the young man feel that his throat was already in pain, even though it was endless time and space away. He slashed backwards. There was a boom, and the time within 100 years shattered, making chaotic currents. People would see the cracks there in the 100 years to come. So, you're the cause of the unexpected change I saw 8,000 years ago. An old emperor of the Rain clan became cold. He wandered in time, alternating his cultivation between the past and the future. 8,000 years before, he caught sight of the turbulence caused by a power outside of the Rain clan. He knew it was the result of a battle, and inferred that it was at the emperor level. He had then forewarned the Rain emperor, asking him to look for potential opponents. However, he knew it was a difficult task, since it involved emperors. Such powerhouses had access to the original Tao world and could hide themselves from the world. They could erase their traces in time and space, making it impossible to be tracked down. Even so, the Rain clan had been keeping a close eye on all the hostile clans over the years. However, no one would have ever guessed that the scene would be caused by a god king. Furthermore, the time of the battle was not 8,000 years later, but slightly ahead of schedule, all due to the aftermath destroying the time that followed. The Rain Emperor looked awful. Su Ping suddenly rose to prominence, growing at a blinding speed. None of them would have thought that the foretold catastrophe would be caused by that human. He had asked the Witch Mountain for support, thinking it was enough to end things, but Su Ping was still alive. Lin Tianjin realized what the Rain Emperor was thinking. He coldly said, "The future has many variations. It's useless to look ahead unless you're looking at mortals whose entire lives are predictable. The future of the great and the talented are never certain. You mustn't delve too deep and seriously. However, all changes in nature are fixed, unless someone purposefully tampers with them. It's not your fault that you failed to finish him off. However, he must die today." The Rain Emperor nodded slightly, but he was secretly alarmed. To think that the old chief would be able to read him like a book after so many years. Rot in hell. A god emperor who was holding the spear charged at Su Ping furiously. After seeing that he had defeated 2 god emperors in a row, they knew he wouldn't be easily suppressed, and so all of them attacked together. Aside from that expert, Emperor Gui and the ones who activated the 4 emperors, Blood Array, were 2 charging at full speed. The world instantly became turbulent, and Su Ping was caught in an energy storm. Unusual phenomena of the great Tao could be seen, while small universes were being manifested. It was like the beginning of chaos. Yan Qing and the other elders changed their expressions. They immediately ran to offer aid. However, the Rain Emperor had been paying attention to them. He rushed to stop them the moment they acted, unfolding his small universe. Then he said with a freezing tone, "You indulged your Tao child to commit murder. Are you going to continue endorsing him? It is true that the Heaven Path Institute has a special status and all clans respect you. That doesn't mean that you can act willfully to step on others." Chapter 14:17, Emperor Among Kings 2. Yan Qing and the others were furious. You're fighting unfairly. Do you really deserve to be called a high-ranked clan? That being said, they knew that, although they were having a conflict with the Rain clan, it could escalate into a conflict between the Heaven Path Institute and all the clans if they didn't handle it well. All in all, the Heaven Path Institute was just a school with students of many clans. However, the Rain clan somehow represented the other high-ranked clans. Many gods were unsatisfied with the Heaven Path Institute having such a special status. They could even try to start a war of ancestral gods with this excuse, which would be terrible. That was the main reason why the elders had been giving in. Rain Emperor, I'll say this one more time. The Tao child cannot die. Yan Qing glared at the Rain Emperor coldly. I'll say this one time too, he must die. The latter stared back at her, not stepping back in the slightest. Yan Qing knew there was no room for negotiation, so she suddenly decided to act. Divine light surged from her body like a tide. She gathered her small universe and hurled it at the Rain Emperor. None of the other elders backed off. How could they let such a Tao child die? He had the potential to become an ancestral god. The Institute would be humiliated if the boy were to perish. While they fought, Su Ping was surrounded and fighting bitterly at the moment. It was the first time for him to be attacked by so many emperors and suppressed by the power of so many universes. He felt the pressure of being completely outnumbered. All those emperors were extremely seasoned warriors. Their teamwork was neat, mutually augmenting each other's power, and the improvement was significant. Su Ping swung his sword furiously. He was instantly covered in blood. However, some emperors were also hurt by him. Swoosh! Lin Tianjin, who had been observing the battle thus far, suddenly took action. Su Ping was already losing like a cornered beast, but he didn't wait for the others to finish him off. Rather, the expert suddenly launched an attack. His spear was like a star from a place beyond the sky. The move was abrupt and instantaneous. Su Ping was hit in the back. He had always kept an eye on the emperor who had merely been observing the battle. However, he was momentarily distracted during the chaotic battle, and the guy seized the opportunity. The feeling of being shattered surged on Su Ping's back. He gritted his teeth with bloodshot eyes, suddenly clenching the spear from his chest and pulling forward. Lin Tianjin slightly changed his expression, not expecting that he would fail to shatter the human with that surprise attack. The guy's body was harder than expected. Still, it was even more surprising that Su Ping's first reaction was to take away his weapon. He snorted and unleashed his power. Even more violent energy darted out of the spear, ready to tear that human's body apart. Su Ping, however, didn't let go. He endured the tearing pain and looked even scarier. Su Ping was wreathed in flames. The golden crow flames and the heavenly fire appeared at the same time and were almost melting his surroundings. The scorching heat made all the other emperors feel hot, as if their universes were on fire. Surprise made them stop. Tao patterns appeared on Su Ping's arms at the same time. The brutal strength of a primitive Chaos clan member erupted. The power received from the ancient corpse was completely shattered by the spear and filled Su Ping's body. The great Tao surrounding Su Ping became lethally violent. It actually tore Lin Tianjin's hands open and revealed the bones inside. Considering the Tao patterns etched on the bones, Lin Tianjin's body was very close to attaining a Tao body. "Drop it!" Su Ping roared furiously. With his body on the line, he fought a tug-of-war and pulled the long spear out of his chest, gaining control over it. Lin Tianjin changed his expression in shock and fury. It was degrading for an emperor to lose his weapon to someone else. But at the last moment, the flesh on his arms evaporated and only the bones remained. He was unable to persist any longer. He lost the strength competition. FCK off. Su Ping seized the spear and then brutally sent it back to his attacker. The spear let out a noise that was reminiscent of a nuclear explosion. It knocked Lin Tianjin away with a terrifying light. The scorching flames were like Su Ping's boiling fury. He was covered in blood, and there was a huge hole on his chest. While soaking in the intertwining flames of the heavenlies and the golden crow's fires, he looked around with infinite ferocity in his eyes. He quickly locked onto the emperors who had set up the four emperors' blood array and charged towards them. To flush out all enemies, he had to finish off from the weakest. Emperor Gui was so frightened to see Su Ping move towards him that his first reaction was to run back to the mountains and hide behind the barrier. After all, the barrier had been personally set up by their ancestral god, just in case someone would destroy the clan while he was asleep. If the barrier was broken, the ancestral god would sense it and wake up. The other emperors from the Rain clan didn't pass judgment. They hurriedly approached him, fearing that another emperor would perish. Su Ping robbed Lin Tianjin of his weapon, which was an eye-opener. They knew that Emperor Gui couldn't resist Su Ping at all. That junior was only a god king back then, but he was as strong as a god emperor. Like a serpent, a long whip darted over from a place in the high sky, like a serpent. It stretched infinitely and was about to tie him up. Holding Lin Tianjin's weapon, Su Ping suddenly slashed at the whip. When the weapons collided, the latter immediately sensed a swallowing power that was resisting his blast at the moment. The next moment, he was slapped away by the whip, missing the opportunity to chase Emperor Gui. Huh! Su Ping detected the will in the blade. Its soul was resisting him. Don't try to restrain me. A stubborn thought was originating from the blade like a ferocious beast. An extremely ferocious soul had been sealed within. It was Lin Tianjin's weapon, which had fought by Lin Tianjin's side for years and developed its own pride. Besides, Lin Tianjin would be in a life-and-death partner. It was very hostile to the enemy who hurt its master. You are but a mere soul, and you think you can resist. Su Ping widened his eyes and blackness emerged from within. It showed the original aura from the ancient soul race. He clenched the spear and imposed a strong burst of power with it. The soul inside the spear was instantly screaming in pain. Feeling Su Ping's aura, it cried in fear. What are you? Hardly did I say that when Su Ping imposed even more strength. It screamed even more miserably. However, no matter how Su Ping tortured it, it simply screamed and continued to struggle with stubbornness. Su Ping slightly narrowed his eyes. That ancient emperor's weapon was indeed not to be underestimated. He loosened his hand and snorted, "For your grit, I will use you as my temporary blade for now. Don't even think about it." The soul was still resisting, but the next moment Su Ping's universe power covered it and his Dao heart branded it. The contract power erased the blood link between the soul and Lin Tianjin. The weapon's resistance against Lin Tianjin had weakened. Chapter 14:18, Contracting the World of Gods 1. What are you doing? Lin Tianjin sensed that the connection between him and his weapon was cut off. He narrowed his eyes. This weapon had significantly enhanced his strength and accompanied him for countless years, and already considered it part of his body. Even so, the connection was severed. He didn't think his weapon would betray him. The human must have done something. I simply made your weapon switch to the right side. What Su Ping said nearly made Lin Tianjin vomit blood in fury. He became even gloomier, gazing at the blade in Su Ping's hand. Zionai, come back. I can't go back, said a pained and helpless voice which came from the weapon's soul. Its memories of Lin Tianjin remained, but were fading away. As a result, its loyalty to Lin Tianjin was declining by the second. It was alarming to the sentient artifact, knowing that the enemy would eventually wield it to fight its previous master. Lin Tianjin was infuriated. He suddenly raised his fist and sent a punch towards Su Ping. Su Ping sneered and swung his spear, unleashing a domineering light. Although the soul was still reluctant, its body followed Su Ping's order because of the contract Dao heart, releasing a terrifying force. After a boom, Lin Tianjin was hit in the arm, which almost broke. He was forced to retreat by his own weapon. Damn it! Lin Tianjin looked awful. He had fought for countless years and never experienced failure, except for the setbacks in his early years. However, he was humiliated by Su Ping. The Rain clan's emperors were shocked to see how Lin Tianjin was countered. Not even the emperors of the 7 greatest clans had ever really won against him, but Su Ping managed to do so. It was utterly insulting. "Don't be distracted. Spear should be loyal. Behave now," Su Ping said to scold the long spear. He could have landed a heavy blow to the guy, but the attack was dodged. As the contract Dao heart kept imposing its power, the resistance of the soul became weaker and weaker until it was completely obedient. "Die." Su Ping held the spear and stepped up. The spear unleashed a terrifying power akin to the sun itself. It contained the power of a universe endowed with a Dao heart. That was the weapon soul's universe. The weapon alone could fight an emperor. Empowered with Su Ping's power, the spear's momentum was ferocious. It cut through time and space and pierced toward Lin Tianjin like a dragon. "Zionai." Lin Tianjin roared with widened eyes. However, the spear was moving mercilessly in his direction. He could no longer feel any aura of his former partner, only an infinite killing intent. The role was reversed. It was just like the spear acted when he held it to kill his enemies, except that he had now become the enemy. He was shocked and infuriated. Su Ping tamed his weapon in a very short time. It boggled the mind, more so than killing a few emperors. But things ran their course. He quickly dodged the attack. "Emperor Heaven Destroy, let's work together to kill him. That way none of us will get hurt if he launches a critical strike before dying," said an emperor. They finally planned to let go of their pride and work together. So far, although they seemed to be attacking collectively, they were attacking in turns, not truly fighting at the same time. But the case was different. Lin Tianjin didn't decline the offer. The human was so tricky he didn't want to observe him anymore. He roared, "Establish the Heaven Rain Divine Formation." "You!" Yan Qing and the others, who were at the moment being held back by the Rain clan's forces, changed their expressions when they saw that Lin Tianjin was setting up their clan's ultimate formation. "How shameless! You're setting up a formation to fight a single person." "This will never end if you hurt our Dao child," roared an elder. Everybody ignored them, though. Lin Tianjin was already charging at Su Ping along with all the emperors. Their auras were dozens of times more powerful than before. Su Ping had the feeling that the tide he was fighting had suddenly turned into a level 10 storm. He was instantly drowned. The terrifying blast hit him like thousands of swords and fists. His body was riddled with painful injuries. Even his soul was in utter pain. Some of the attacks worked directly on the soul. Su Ping's new spear roared. Its soul had completely surrendered to Su Ping and wanted to protect him, but the ultimate weapon's purpose was offense. Defense was not a strong suit. Thus far it had managed to endure the violent attacks without falling apart, although it was only because Lin Tianjin and the others went easy on the weapon itself. After all, for old time's sake, their sole target was still Su Ping. The power of Lin Tianjin and the others was multiple times greater than that of the 4 emperors' blood array. Even Su Ping felt like he had fallen into an ocean. He couldn't control himself, swaying as a leaf in a storm. Is this the joint power of top emperors? Su Ping felt that, even though it wasn't as strong as an ancestral god, it was still frightening. He tried to resist, but the infinite power from their great Daos and universes went straight for him, shattering the power he had just mobilized. He seemed to be facing the attacks of hundreds of emperors, and suddenly felt that underestimating them was premature. His enemies weren't that weak. Had he already reached his limits? Su Ping took a deep breath. After finally having a sense of his own limits, he was ready to activate the fusion mode. After all, being a battle pet warrior, his strongest form was when he merged with his pet. Right when he was about to summon the young chaos beast and merge with it, he sensed that his newly subdued spear was shaking, unleashing a dazzling power and creating an opening in the chaotic attacks. "Zionai." Lin Tianjin's eyes were bloodshot. His weapon was burning its soul crazily for Su Ping. That was definitely not something that could be done by controlling the weapon. The move had to be voluntary. Even he couldn't force it when he was the owner. He felt a tearing heartache. His longtime partner had turned into the enemy's weapon. were the hundreds of millions of years incomparable to this short moment. The spear took Su Ping out of the killing formation through the opening. He was freed from the infinite attacks and was able to catch his breath. Su Ping was dazed as he looked at the spear, currently burning with golden light. He didn't expect that the weapon would go so far for his sake, all thanks to the influence of his contract. I am the god-destroying spear. I can destroy all gods, but I will not allow my master to fall before I do. You must hang in there, said an arrogant and angry voice coming from the weapon's soul. Su Ping was stunned and speechless. He knew it was all because of his Tao heart, which had probably twisted the weapon's memories. So was his Tao heart that powerful? Contract, Su Ping mumbled. All of a sudden he had an epiphany. His Tao heart was not about getting stronger, but about staying alive together. Your master will not die. Su Ping's eyes became sharp. He spoke softly, while a universe appeared behind his back. It was glowing, making him look like a Buddha. The dazzling light was spread in the godly world's deep space. I will establish a contract with the world of gods and use it as a weapon. Let's fight. Again. As the power of contract permeated into the area, Su Ping instantly felt that he was strongly connected to the deep space of the entire world of gods. A magnificent power suddenly surged into his limbs, akin to an exploding star, and instantly felt as if he were melting. All his cells seemed to have been blown apart and melted into the world. The indescribable power made Su Ping feel stronger than ever. His soul was heavier and clearer, while his eyes saw through infinite distances and time. Bang! Su Ping stepped up, causing an echo in the entire world. Lin Tianjin slightly changed his expression, as he was quick to sense the change in Su Ping. The horrifying aura made him shiver a bit. It was just like facing an ancestral god. Hurry up, execute him right now, Lin Tianjin said quickly, unwilling to delay the matter. He would no longer show mercy to his former weapon if the latter intervened. Before the man did anything, Su Ping had already stepped forward and stood in front of an ancient emperor. While shock filled the emperor's face, he punched out. The punch seemed slow, as if the power of the entire universe was slowly pushing the fist like a water current. However, it was in fact something that was beyond any description of time, like a punch in someone's memories. It was unavoidable because the person affected was already hit when they saw it. The power of such a level was already beyond the understanding of normal emperors. That ancient emperor was shocked. He unleashed all of his strength in an attempt to stop it. Boom! His robe exploded without producing any light, and the embedded soul was obliterated. The next moment, his chest exploded, and so did the universe behind his back. This is impossible. The other emperors were all frightened. That emperor had been a famous cultivator for a long time, but Su Ping had destroyed his universe with one punch. It had to be noted that the destruction of a small universe was a fatal injury, even for god emperors. Chapter 14:19, One Finger One. In the midst of exploding energy, Su Ping tore the god emperor apart and stepped through his remains. Surrounded by flames, he was the only monarch of the world. He gave his enemies an aggressive look. Weren't you going to kill me? Why are you still not doing anything? His demand woke them up. They felt humiliation and anger. One of the emperors couldn't take it anymore and dashed with a roar. I'm going to cut off your head. He was like a dragon from barbaric times. The universe behind his back glowed, as if about to suppress both time and space completely. Countless scary ghosts surrounded his body. Their ghastly appearance made them look like hellspawn. They were all the enemies that he had killed. Their souls were restrained, becoming part of his combat ability. All those ghosts were roaring and charging fiercely at the moment. They were going to overturn the world, like the masters of hell itself. You're so old, you should just lie down and rot. Su Ping's eyes were brilliant. He suddenly stomped in the sky. An enormous bare foot appeared out of nowhere, imposing such a strong pressure that all the ghosts screamed in fear. The emperor roared and turned into a black blade, cutting time and space and piercing through the sky. His attack went directly into Su Ping's consciousness. It was unavoidable. Su Ping wasn't planning on dodging, though. Without losing any of his momentum, he stepped down and caused trembling waves in the entire Rain clan within 1,000 years. The Black Blade, that Emperor's transformation, was knocked from the high sky and went into the depths of the shattered space, where space turbulence was rampant. It was so dangerous that normal god kings would not dare step in. However, the guy was an emperor. The deep space alone wasn't enough to kill him. However, his body was at the moment unable to move underneath Su Ping's foot, and he could only tolerate the corrosion of the power, which felt like ants biting. You! The Emperor's eyes were almost popping out, suffused with shock and fury. He was an unparalleled emperor among those who dominated the world of gods. Even the emperors of the 7 greatest clans would treat him with respect. However, he was at the moment under Su Ping's foot like a dead dog. How humiliating. Looks like you're nothing more than ants. Su Ping's disdainful voice was heard up close. High above the enormous bare foot, in the midst of the infinite darkness, his cold and brilliant eyes were looking down indifferently, like a deity would. After he said that, the bare foot unleashed infinite light. The Emperor was crushed to bits before he could struggle. Even his soul had been obliterated. He was completely minced by the great Tao. Lin Tianjin and the others were late reinforcements. All of them trembled with fury after seeing that happen. The emperors, whose growth could take 100,000 years, had died in succession by Su Ping's hand. Summon the ancestor's soul with my blood. Lin Tianjin growled all of a sudden, no longer as casual as before. He switched to a wounded beast mode, violent and ferocious. His body was ablaze with a dazzling divine power. Even the wake of his energy was spread for thousands of kilometers. He looked like a glittering sun. His fellow emperors were terrified by what he said, but they also realized that holding back was no longer impossible. The little monster was unimaginably powerful. They had to suppress him with that move. Summon the ancestor's soul with my blood. Summon the ancestor's soul with my blood. The sky above the Rain clan changed as the emperors roared indignantly. Or rather, the entire Rain clan's territory was going through some sort of change. Even the people in the small cities at the border of the Rain clan's territory, which was billions of kilometers away from the battlefield somehow, felt a chilling coldness in the air. It was as if the cities themselves would have turned into the stomachs of enormous pythons. Everybody felt scared. The ancestor's soul. The Rain Emperor, who was stopping Yanqing and the other elders, suddenly looked back at the battlefield in an unimaginable distant point in time and space. There was shock in his eyes. He had already asked Lin Tianjin and the other old-generation monsters to take action. Were they incapable of finishing the guy off? Did they have to burn their souls and blood to summon our ancestor's soul? What are you doing? Yanqing and the others, still detained in the Rain Emperor's universe, somehow felt scared. They could barely sense the outside world, and something gave them a chill. Something horrifying had happened to the world. Summon the ancestor's soul. Su Ping slightly changed his expression upon hearing the call. He had read about that secret technique from certain classified books in the Heaven Path Institute's library, and was unique to the high-ranked clans. They could briefly summon the soul power of their ancestral god after using blood from the clan's direct descendants. It was a terrifying move, which was also protection granted by their ancestral god to the experts of their clan. Even if they were fighting countless light years away, they could still use that trump card to save their lives. That was also the reason why the high-ranked clans could look down on other races, even if they fought against equals. They had the support of an ancestral god. Asking the ancestral god to show up was unnecessary. They could suppress the enemy by merely summoning his soul. How could their peers have the slightest chance to fight them? Chapter 1420, One Finger 2. Are you done? You've been losing again and again. Why don't you ask your ancestral god to come here? Su Ping narrowed his eyes coldly. He didn't give them a chance to keep calling for aid. He quickly attacked one of the emperors. He wanted to gauge and push his limits, but he had already seen ancestral gods. The chaos perception dragon, the creature that had once taught the young chaos beast, was an ancestral god beast in the world of gods. It was even more terrifying than normal ancestral gods. Nobody had been able to tame it yet. Su Ping knew it was impossible for him to win against an ancestral god with his current strength. He would be instantly killed if he were to test his limits with ancestral gods. Bang! He swung the spear and instantly approached that emperor. The latter quickly blocked the attack, but the spear pierced through his arm. Su Ping stabbed again, gathering infinite great Tao as a beam of light, which tore the enemy's universe apart and pierced him in the void. Don't you want your weapon? Here you go. Su Ping charged at Lin Tianjin after killing that emperor. The latter had bloodshot eyes, having heard Su Ping's roar and how the other emperor had succumbed. That emperor belonged to the Rain ancestors' time period. He failed to win the competition against the Rain clan and chose to become a follower. He had acted as elder and protected the clan for a very long time. Back when he was little, the guy was already a god king. However, that uncle of his had already collapsed in front of him. You must die. Lin Tianjin gnashed his teeth. His body was trembling, never thinking that the actions taken by one person would endanger his clan. The battle against Su Ping was no different from a war against a high-ranked clan. Besides, never had there been such swift deaths of emperors in the past, not even in the most intense clan wars. Lin Tianjin suddenly raised his head as the spear approached. He vanished from the spot. But the next moment, the spear aura pierced into his body in the void. His armor was broken, while the flesh on his shoulder was obliterated. You can't even block your own weapon. How can I give it back to you like this? Su Ping stepped out of the deep space and swung the spear again. His spear contained the power of the world within a radius of thousands of kilometers, and it was great enough to pierce any emperor. The result was like watching a mortal on Earth endure the pressure of 10,000 kilometers. He would be directly squeezed into a pulp. The energy wake caused by the spear was already suffocating enough for Lin Tianjin. Even the air seemed empty. He couldn't understand why Su Ping was powerful to a terrifying degree. It exceeded the emperor category, but he wasn't an ancestral god. Furthermore, Su Ping's own level was only that of a god king. It was strange and incomprehensible. Lin Tianjin dodged again. However, the spear aura had already locked onto his soul and he couldn't get rid of it. He tried his best, but he could only postpone the spear hitting him. He had already been hit by the spear to some degree. The result was unchangeable. However, he struggled to alter the result, if only barely, turning from heavily wounded to mildly wounded. Boom! Lin Tianjin was sent flying by Su Ping again. Half his face had been stabbed. The damaged section was bloody, with bones protruding. However, the flesh on his wound was wriggling and flushing out the great Tao power inside. Su Ping narrowed his eyes. This guy was much stronger than the other emperors. He actually endured 2 spear attacks and survived. You've endured a power of a 10,000-kilometer range. This is enough to earn your right to be called a genius. Su Ping's eyes glittered and he charged again. He was becoming proficient with his new power, the one borrowed from the world through the contract Tao Heart in a radius of 10,000 kilometers. Normal god emperors were no different from children in front of him. After all, too many laws and great Taos were within that range. It wasn't a simple power. I wonder how much of this power I can borrow. He didn't slow down while he pondered. His third attack was about to hit the target, but then an illusory power descended. Su Ping instantly felt that Lin Tianjin had turned into a special being, as if he were in another world. He couldn't be sensed, and only his afterimage could be seen. Concurrently, the aura that carried the strange power arrived in full. Su Ping instantly saw mountains falling in front of his eyes. The pressure was so immense that he found himself in a snake den. He felt uncontrollably cold. He raised his head and looked. Then he saw a hazy, inhuman figure that looked like a pure glowing entity, emitting gray light. There was a terrifying, compact power at the light's core. Su Ping didn't panic. Even if he perished, he could still resurrect through the system. At the moment, he was actually more interested in focusing and observing the power's components. With his chaos eyes, he saw that the power was made of an unimaginable number of great Taos. However, the great Taos melded together until they became countable. In the end, there was only one left. The great Taos were fused. Su Ping narrowed his eyes. "You can do that." While Su Ping watched, the hazy light erupted and darted towards Su Ping. The latter felt instantly horrified. He would die if he made contact with the light by chance. Resurrecting was something he could do, but Su Ping preferred not to go down that easily. He roared and controlled the power of the world, further connecting with the world. His universe of chaos gathered all the power and formed a vortex-like python. He was trying to resist the power. That sharp python revolved like a storm and contained a terrifying tearing force. They would be constantly weakened once the enemy's attack was in their range. However, Su Ping didn't know whether or not he could live to the moment the power was weakened. Everything happened in the blink of an eye, too fast. After a bam, the sharp python summoned by Su Ping was shattered. The next moment, his universe was pierced, leaving a hole, same with his body. The terrifying force completely twisted him. Su Ping was turning him into a black hole. The light in front of Su Ping was gone. He then saw a finger. At the end of the compact, hazy light was the ancestral god's finger. Tearing destruction pain. Su Ping sensed the expansion and decline of his body. The feeling was utterly familiar, as he had experienced it 1,000,000 times. So it's the ancestral god's finger. Su Ping gnashed his teeth with craziness in his eyes. "You think you can squeeze me to death with just one finger? I'm not an ant." His soul roared, and the roar echoed in his skull. The blood in his head burned and boiled. His shattered and distorted body was recovering bit by bit. The power he formerly gathered stretched out from 10,000 kilometers to 20,000 kilometers, not stopping until it reached the 30,000-kilometer mark. The tearing force acting on Su Ping was also blocked by the new power of the world that merely surged in. Both powers collided. Su Ping gradually gained the upper hand and suppressed his wound. Everything happened all too quickly. Both time and space around Su Ping were too broken to be seen clearly. However, when observed from other times and spaces, it could be seen that Su Ping would recover the moment he was hurt. This is impossible. Lin Tianjin and the others were so shocked by that scene that their souls were escaping their bodies. The ancestor soul's attack didn't kill Su Ping. Their dumbfoundment was such that their heads even went blank. It was even more shocking than mortals seeing gods arrive before their eyes. They had been cultivating for ages. Their accumulated knowledge, both conceived and consolidated over the years, was indestructible. When renewed, it was as intense as the explosion of a planet. Die now. Bolts of lightning darted out of his eyes and shot through the whole world once his wound was healed. He clenched his fist and swept out. This instantly gave way to a terrifying scene. The void collapsed wherever his spear made contact. The void was collapsing, and countless great Taos were being annihilated. Bang, bang. 2 emperors were hit first. Even though they had gathered all their strength to resist, they were like eggs hit by heavy rocks and were instantly blown up into nothingness. Chapter 14:21. Invite the Ancestral God 1. Lin Tianjin was the first to react. He suddenly narrowed his eyes and roared, "Hurry and dodge." He was the first to retreat. Light and shadows spun around him and instantly concealed himself in an imperceptible space. The long spear made a sweeping motion, and the space around Su Ping was obliterated. Everything within the spear's range was reduced to nothingness. Nobody except the first 2 emperors had been able to resist Su Ping's attack. With the exception of Lin Tianjin, the spear attack made 5 emperors explode. The latter was forced to exit the abnormal space by the spear. Only half of his body remained. He looked at Su Ping in astonishment. Such strength had far exceeded his imagination. How can this guy condense such a terrifying power when he's not even an emperor? With Su Ping's body as the center, everything within a 3,000-kilometer radius was pure darkness, as if part of the world were gone. The area became an empty spot in the world of gods. One could even feel the vast worlds beyond through that hole. The world of gods then started to slowly mend itself. Although Lin Tianjin was hiding far in the distance, he was still within the 3,000-kilometer range, which was factual distance in the world of gods. The distance he had extended with time and space was reduced to zero when the Great Tao was broken. Harnessing the Great Tao, 1 meter could be extended into thousands of kilometers. However, in reality, it was just 1 meter. Su Ping's attack had attacked a real, physical distance. Nobody could avoid it, even if they were hiding billions of light years away and 1,000 years in the past. Farther away, the Rain Emperor, who was still blocking Elder Yan Qing and the other sensed the terrifying aura and suddenly looked around. Then, he saw the most unforgettable scene. 5 elders of his clan perished without leaving a body behind, all with one of Su Ping's attacks. This is not an illusion. The Rain Emperor was dumbfounded. The scene was absolutely unbelievable. He felt so cold it was as if he would have fallen into hell. His distraction turned into a chance for Elder Yan and the others to break free from his universe. They also noticed the silent scene before their eyes. What happened here? All the elders were stunned. They all looked at the heavily wounded Lin Tianjin, with only half of his body remaining. How could the previous leader of the Rain clan, someone of renown, among all clans, look so miserable? You're the only one left. Su Ping glanced around and saw Lin Tianjin. The former raised his head, strong killing intent making Lin Tianjin tremble. His heart was pounding. He had been through the most dangerous battles in countless years, but none of them was as shocking as the one he was in at the moment. He had thought at first that no emperor would ever be a threat to him after exiting his lengthy, secluded cultivation. However, his pride had been crushed the very first time he fought after exiting seclusion. Hurry, enter the circle and summon the ancestral god. Lin Tianjin barely looked back and instantly charged toward the circle of his clan, knowing he was definitely not a match for Su Ping at the moment. Running was awfully embarrassing, yet survival was more important. An emperor had to wise up and know when to bend. The Rain Emperor's head was humming after hearing the expert's instructions. Run! Did Lin Tianjin and the others lose? Although confused for a moment, his body was quick to react. He followed Lin Tianjin's orders, abandoning Yan Qing and the rest to dash and reach the circle. The circle was nearby. They had been fighting in the sky, above the Rain clan's territory. Since they moved at full speed, reaching the circle was achieved in a blink. You ran away. Su Ping was slightly surprised by their actions. He didn't move to stop them. He couldn't even if he wanted to. He looked at the fleeing pair and said indifferently, "You don't want to fight anymore. Is this the pride of the Rain clan?" "Shut up." The Rain Emperor gnashed his teeth. "You will pay a bloody price for killing our emperors and provoking our clan." "Stop wasting time on him. Go call the ancestral god," said Lin Tianjin immediately. He had already repaired his body, except that he looked much weaker than before. He gave Su Ping a brutal stare. "No matter where you're from and whatever secrets you may have, you will die today." Is the Rain clan really going to bring the ancestral god? Yan Qing and the others dashed closer. They were shocked and frightened by the prospect of what they said. Nobody thought that Su Ping would be able to survive Lin Tianjin and the others' attacks, even kill them in the end. The Rain clan was now going to request the help of their ancestral god to finish Su Ping off, someone who was 2 levels weaker. An ancestral god was asked to suppress a god king. It was like a joke. An elder stepped up and roared at the two of them, holding back his shock. "Rain Emperor, it is time to admit defeat. The whole lot of you are emperors. You ganged up on him and still you lost. You want to ask your ancestral god to take action. Is the ancestral god of the Rain clan going to bully a god king?" "That's right. The Heaven Path Institute has ancestral gods too. We will surely protect our Tao child. We won't let you kill him," said another elder. "Asking your ancestral god to come out will only trigger an ancestral god battle. The Tao child of the Heaven Path Institute won't get hurt by this," said Elder Yan Qing with a stern voice. The Rain Emperor changed his expression. Of course he knew that they weren't just empty threats. If he were in their shoes, he would certainly do all he could to prevent such a genius from being killed. Chapter 1422. Invite the Ancestral God too. Involving the ancestral gods would trigger an ancestral gods battle, and the Rain clan's ancestral god would probably lose. The Rain Emperor hesitated, and Lin Tianjin also showed a slight change of expression, realizing the terrible situation. That's all right. We must not let him go today. The Rain clan is not entirely helpless, and the three ancestral gods from the Heaven Path Institute are not invincible. Lin Tianjin's eyes glittered. He gritted his teeth in the end, then said to the Rain Emperor, "Go invite the ancestral god and tell him what happened. He will have a solution." The Rain Emperor felt dazed for a moment. He didn't reply, seeing the latter's determination, and merely nodded, quickly disappearing. "You?" Elder Yan Qing and the others changed their expressions, not expecting him to be so decisive. Would the long peace in the world of gods finally be broken? However, with everything reaching that point, they had no choice except to fight. An elder quickly disappeared and returned to the Heaven Path Institute. Yan Qing said to Su Ping, "Dao child, return to the institute with us immediately." Su Ping turned around and looked at them. The turn of events was slightly surprising, but he wasn't entirely unprepared. Even if the enemy was so furious that their ancestral god would take action, Su Ping wasn't scared. The worst possibility was death, and he could resurrect anyway. The Chaos Perception Dragon had failed to kill him a while back. He didn't think that other ancestral gods could. That is, unless they imprisoned him and tortured him until all his energy points for resurrecting was used up. However, Su Ping was no longer a weakling. He would never let that happen. "Elders, I'm responsible for what I did. There's no need to ask the ancestral gods for help," said Su Ping to Elder Yan and the others. "My true body is somewhere else. They can't kill me, even if their ancestral god does come." "Huh?" Elder Yan Qing and the others narrowed their eyes and looked at Su Ping in shock. "Your true body? Dao child, what do you mean?" "Dao child, is this just an incarnation of yours?" All the elders looked at Su Ping in shock and soon felt enlightened. No wonder Su Ping is so audacious. So, he already made plans. Besides, that also explains why he's so tough and monstrous. Does his true body have an ancestral god's cultivation? However, they remembered that there wasn't an ancestral god among humans. So, it was possible that Su Ping was the ancestral god from another clan who reincarnated in a human body. They brainstormed and made a lot of guesses, enlightenment dawning on them even more. "More or less. In any case, nothing will happen to me. I hope that you won't ask the ancestral gods for help. I don't want to get too many people involved in this matter," said Su Ping. His enemy was aware of the Institute's three ancestral gods but was still bold enough to summon their own, so they probably had other trump cards. Even if they didn't, other clans would step in if ancestral gods decided to fight. Win or lose, the Heaven Path Institute would suffer a heavy loss. After all, it was just a school where the students of thousands of clans gathered, while the world of gods was dominated by high-ranked clans, such as the Rain clan. "You?" Yan Qing and the others exchanged bewildered looks, hesitating. "I really hope you do as I said," was Su Ping's sincere plea. Yan Qing gazed at the young human. "You're not lying, are you? If you're doing this only because you don't want to become a burden to us, don't worry." "No, I never lie," said Su Ping solemnly. Elder Chan instantly changed his expression, his lips twitching. He stood up and said solemnly, "Earlier today, you lied to me that you wouldn't come to the Rain clan territory, but you did. This matter concerns your life. This is no laughing matter." Yan Qing and the others looked at Su Ping with a strange expression. Su Ping was instantly embarrassed. He coughed and said, "That was just a joke. I'm serious right now. Who would ever joke about their life? I have to become an ancestral god in the future." All of them looked at Su Ping with dubious eyes. They found him suspicious, but his words made sense. Nobody would want to get killed unless something was wrong up there in their head, right? Since the Rain clan is summoning their old ancestor, I'll be the bigger man here and let him go. That way I won't be accused of being mean to an old dog. I'll be on my way then. Su Ping waved at Elder Yan and the others. Lin Tianjin was so infuriated by Su Ping's claim that he almost charged out of the circle. He clenched his fists. Insulting an ancestral god was a capital offense in the world of gods. Ancestral gods were superior, never to be affronted. Yan Qing and the others felt rather helpless. They guessed that Su Ping's true body was very likely another ancestral god, and it was fine for him to curse one of his peers. Yan Qing urged, "Go then. Even if this is just an incarnation, it would still be a shame to have it erased like this." Su Ping nodded and was about to leave. Exactly at that moment, a loud laugh burst out in the void. Then, many figures tore openings in the void and stood in Su Ping's way. "You've caused trouble, and now you want to run. Is this how the Heaven Path Institute teaches their Tao children? Emperor Heaven Destroyer, have you slacked off over the years? You can't even finish off a god king." Altogether, 7 figures stood in midair and glowed. It seemed that all of them were god emperors. Each of them appeared to be standing in independent times and spaces. They were centers of the universe, surrounded by infinite great Taos. Elder Yan changed her expression and demanded, "People of the Chechen clan, why are you here?" The handsome emperor in the lead said casually, "The Rain clan is our ally. Naturally, we're here to teach this ignorant junior a lesson on behalf of our friend. Oh, by saying friend, I don't mean the Heaven Path Institute. Don't forget to pay me for lecturing your Tao child. Chechen clan, you're way out of line by trying to teach our Tao child. There are no grudges between us. Better stay clear of trouble," said Yan Qing angrily. "What are you talking about? As I said, we're not here for you. We came to aid our old comrades. Besides, your Tao child has insulted emperors in public and provoked a high-ranking clan. How can he get away so easily?" The handsome emperor chuckled. "Years back, the prince of the Chechen clan was too naughty and refused to enter the Heaven Path Institute. We never forbade him entry. Why hold a senseless grudge for so long?" Yan Qing didn't want to beat around the bush and said straight out, "Today, the Tao child challenged god emperors with a god king cultivation. He's shown the Rain clan enough respect, and all the god emperors of the Rain clan failed to defeat him. Do you have the face to force him to stay? A mere god king dares to challenge a high-ranked clan. That's insubordination and should be punishable with death." The handsome god emperor chuckled. "As for the past incident, I'm glad our prince wasn't admitted by your institute. Otherwise, it would have truly been sad to see him become as arrogant and insubordinate as this Tao child." "Get out of the way," roared Yan Qing, not wanting to waste any more time. "Hello." The handsome god emperor chuckled and wanted to say something else, only to be interrupted by Su Ping, who also stopped Elder Yan and the others. He said casually, "It doesn't matter. If more people want to get killed, I'll kill some more before the ancestral god arrives. You're just a few emperors and you're talking about insubordination. Let's see who's the senior and who's the junior here." He suddenly held his spear and attacked. After a boom, the void exploded, and Su Ping approached in an instant. "Watch out," said Lin Tianjin with narrowed eyes, still within the protective circle. The handsome god emperor was stunned, obviously not expecting the human to attack the Chechen clan. Infuriated, he laughed and said, "What an arrogant scumbag. Let's see what you've got." He waved the folded fan he was holding, sending out a universe that was split into countless universes, filling up the world. "What a petty trick. You think it's worth displaying?" Su Ping smiled disdainfully. His long spear pierced and twisted the world. All the power within a 10,000-kilometer range was gathered in one point and pushed out. Boom! The universe collapsed with an enormous explosion. Su Ping's long spear pierced the universe, shattering the handsome god emperor's robe and dug into his shoulder. "You!" The handsome god emperor was shocked and frightened. Nobody would ever know how terrifying and destructive Su Ping's spear was unless they experienced it in person. "Who's the senior and who's the junior?" Su Ping roared, his dazzling spear aura swallowing his enemy. Chapter 1423, Aid of the Beast 1. There was a resounding boom. The universe exploded and the handsome god emperor exploded in the void like withering snow. His soul quickly perished due to the spear's aura. Only the scream of his soul remained. The other god emperors of the Chechen clan were appalled. They looked at Su Ping in disbelief. He killed our royal prince with a single attack. Their prince was supposed to be their clan's next leader. He had been tasked with leading the team and visiting the Rain clan to gain more experience. Nobody expected him to die so easily. Su Ping snorted, not even looking back. He summoned the young chaos beast and merged with it. Then he fled from that place. He was too fast for any of the god emperors to react and stop him. The reason why cultivators at that level were rarely killed was their escaping abilities. They were hard to catch once they were intent on fleeing, unless there was a huge strength gap, which was rare. Su Ping was an exception. Lin Tianjin had a gloomy visage. He flashed to the ancestral land. There would still be a chance to block the boy before he returned to the Heaven Path Institute, as long as the ancestral god woke up in time. Ancestral gods could travel across the world with a single thought, as long as the destination wasn't behind special barriers. Lin Tianjin arrived at the ancestral land. He then saw that the Rain Emperor was at the moment kneeling and offering apologies. "Have you reported the matter to the ancestral god?" Lin Tianjin asked telepathically in a hurry. The Rain Emperor didn't even dare to look back. He only replied via telepathy, "I've told the ancestral god everything." Lin Tianjin took a deep breath and fell on his knees. "Ancestral god, we beg you to wake up and execute the instigator. That guy will definitely grow to become troublesome." After a moment of silence, a vast aura surfaced along with a cold and indifferent voice. "He is but a mere god king, and you want me to suppress him. Have you forgotten to grow up while being under my protection?" Lin Tianjin sweated hard and quickly said, "Ancestral god, please forgive us. We never slacked off. It is very likely that this monster's true body is an ancestral god. We've already tried our best. There's nothing else we can do." "Humph, no ancestral god would waste time building clones." The indifferent voice was filled with disdain. "We seek the path to transcend. Creating clones is pointless. We've already been through all the worldly tribulations that we should go through. No ancestral god would use them. Besides, I don't feel any connection between him and an ancestral god. He is an authentic god king." Lin Tianjin was appalled. Su Ping's body has his true self. He had overheard the conversation between Yan Qing and Su Ping, and thought that Su Ping was indeed an incarnation. However, he knew that the ancestral god would never lie. If the latter said there was no connection, there couldn't be any. Could it be that Su Ping was only lying to reassure Yan Qing and the others? He came in person to provoke the Rain clan. How bold is he? No wonder he escaped. Lin Tianjin reached a sudden realization, understanding why the young man had left in a hurry after killing the royal prince of the Chechen clan. So, he was truly worried that the ancestral god would show up and kill him. "You've completely disgraced me. If you're so incompetent, maybe I should kill you all and start a new batch." The Rain Emperor's voice was cold and expressionless. His words made the Rain Emperor and Lin Tianjin have goosebumps all over their bodies. They took their superior's words as true. After all, ancestral gods could create and destroy anything with ease. One person was an entire clan. As long as the ancestral god was alive, any clans they created would become high-ranked clans. That was the reason why such figures were powerful, and why the middle-ranked vassal races were trying their best to raise ancestral gods of their own. The Rain Emperor said in a hurry and kowtowed heavily, "Ancestral god, please forgive us." Lin Tianjin also lowered his head in panic, shedding all of his emperor's pride. Ancestral gods were irreplaceable, while emperors were just ants in front of them. Humph! Instantly, a terrifying power was spread out. However, the aura vanished all of a sudden. The heavy and mysterious pressure of the ancestral god also disappeared. Both the Rain Emperor and Lin Tianjin were somehow relieved, knowing that the ancestral god had taken action. In the void, somewhere in the deep space, Su Ping was leaving the Rain clan territory at full speed, rushing after merging with the young chaos beast. He then found himself in the sky above another continent. Su Ping wouldn't die, but he preferred to not reveal his ease to resurrect. Huh. All of a sudden, Su Ping changed his expression. The void around him was instantly frozen. All the great Tao under Su Ping's control was solidified. The power rested from him. Su Ping struggled to turn his head, using all his strength to move his body a little bit. Then, he saw a glowing figure walking in the void behind his back. The figure was untainted, seemingly beyond this world. His gait was slow, but he brought forth a strong, deadly threat with every step he took. He moved closer. With every step, Su Ping felt that all his blood was being squeezed out of him. His body was expanding and about to explode. Just the pressure of the guy walking was almost unbearable for the young man. Was that the power that an ancestral god could reveal? Su Ping did not panic. Rather, with intense fighting will in his eyes, he gnashed his teeth and said, "You're the ancestral god of the Rain clan. Are you going to bully someone who's 2 levels weaker than you? Are all the god emperors of the Rain clan so useless that they had to ask their old ancestor for help?" Chapter 1424, Aid of the Beast 2. Chaos Clan, no wonder there was nothing they could do about you. However, you couldn't have done that just by being a member of the Chaos Clan. The Rain ancestor mumbled to himself and turned a deaf ear to Su Ping's taunt. He seemed to be even more arrogant than ordinary gods, as if no words were qualified to enter his ears. He was there to end the matter. That was all. Supposedly, the grudge between me and your clan would have been settled after I killed the god emperors of your clan. However, you, an ancestral god, chose to demean yourself by joining the mess. This grudge will only continue, said Su Ping while staring at the other, clearly uttering one word after the other. The Rain ancestor walked slowly, while his eyes looked back with consideration. A moment later he said softly, "You're not scared of me." "Why should I be scared of you?" Su Ping had already calmed down. There was no anger on his face, just coldness. "You're too talented to die just like this. I will refine you and make you a corpse puppet. You will guard our gate and greet our guests. It'll be good for you," mumbled the Rain ancestor. He then extended a hand and snatched the young man. The void was frozen. Su Ping felt he couldn't move. Anger surged in his eyes. Obviously, the guy didn't listen to what he said at all. "Rain Clan, I'll remember you." Su Ping looked at him thoughtfully and was ready to detonate himself. Given his current power, there was no way his opponent could stop him if he suddenly detonated himself, as the frozen space didn't affect Su Ping's own universe. The ancestral god was indeed able to kill him instantly, but it couldn't suppress him like a toy. Bang! The moment Su Ping was going to blow himself up, the void shook, and a huge claw emerged all of a sudden, slapping the Rain ancestor in the face. The Rain ancestor shivered and vanished. The void he was in exploded. Using the shattered void, a magnificent behemoth was seen walking over from the distance. Su Ping sensed that whatever was restraining him was removed. He turned around and saw a familiar figure. It was none other than the Chaos Perception Dragon. Su Ping was shocked. Not once did he think it would show up or rescue him. However, he soon realized he had merged with this young chaos beast. It probably went there to offer aid because it sensed that the young fellow beast was in danger. Chaos Perception Dragon. The Rain ancestor reappeared in the void and looked at the approaching behemoth. The casual look on his face was replaced by solemnity and astonishment. Why did this ancient beast come here to rescue this brat? He instantly connected the dots, as both Su Ping and the Chaos Perception Dragon belonged to the Chaos Clan. Is it possible that the beast was this brat's master? He took that conjecture as the answer. It was the only way to explain the situation. Roar! The Chaos Perception Dragon laid its limbs on the ground and roared, causing a soundless explosion that shocked the soul. The Rain ancestor was enshrouded in a domineering killing intent. The latter said gloomily, "This is not the place for a beast like you. Go back to your barbaric land." Bang! He was answered by the great dragon's claw, which sent a slap in the void with infinite strength. The Rain ancestor counterattacked. An ancient Tao pattern appeared, only to be instantly destroyed. He was slapped away, ending with heavy wounds. Behind the chaos perception dragon was a vague, bloody universe, which stared at the Rain ancestor like a huge eye in the void. The ancestor god roared furiously, swiftly unfolding his universe and fighting the giant creature. Time and space shook before Su Ping's eyes. Both god and beast dashed into the deepest space in the blink of an eye, becoming untraceable. Su Ping only sensed that the aftershock of their collisions was still rampant. He moved carefully, since even the secondary effects of their moves were powerful enough to destroy god emperors. A long while later, Su Ping was unable to sense the passage of time, since both time and space were broken in that place. He could roughly tell that 3 days had passed. All of a sudden a golden figure was flung out of the void. He was none other than the Rain ancestor. His robe was ragged and he looked miserable, with blood all over his body. There were injuries on arms and cheeks, as well as special Tao patterns spreading on his body. Conversely, a gigantic behemoth charged out of the deeper space, which was none other than the chaos perception dragon. Its body became even more terrifying and dreadful. The Rain ancestor said angrily, "Bastard, I will surely terminate you." His body turned into a beam of light and disappeared into the void. The chaos perception dragon waved its claws and moved to disappear into the void. Then, it suddenly stopped and turned around to look at Su Ping. It opened its mouth and sucked Su Ping into it before it vanished from that place. In the ancestral land of the Rain clan, the Rain Emperor and Lin Tianjin were still on their knees, not daring to move. Both grew anxious as time went by. The Rain ancestor already took action. Why isn't he back yet? According to them, not even 5 minutes. Their ancestor would only need a few minutes to return with Su Ping's head or the news of having simply obliterated him. However, 4 hours had already passed. Both of them felt uneasy and anxious. They had a bad feeling. It was too abnormal. It's taking the ancestral god this long to kill Su Ping. While pondering, a magnificent aura descended in the ancestral land. The two of them tensed up, but their hearts were relieved. It was their ancestor's aura. He was finally back. "Congratulations on your triumphant return, ancestral god. Our blunder forced your hand. We hope that you can forgive us," said the Rain Emperor in a hurry, lowering his head. He knew it was likely that the ancestral god would punish them, now that Su Ping was gone. A chaos beast is backing the brat. It showed up to protect him. Inform the 7 high-ranked clans and ask them to gather and hunt that ferocious beast together. This beast shall be executed for invading the godly continent, said the Rain ancestor angrily, no longer indifferent. Both of them were rather stunned. The chaos beast. Only the chaos perception dragon could be described as such. Su Ping's backer was not a clan, but a ferocious beast. Both emperors felt enlightened as they thought of the chaos aura they sensed in Su Ping. Then, a terrifying thought popped up. So, this genius is a descendant of the chaos perception dragon. No wonder he's such a genius and nobody knew about his background. He looks human, but nobody knows his parents among the people of the human clan, as if born out of nowhere. The Rain Emperor felt he had figured out Su Ping's background. No wonder he was so brutal, killing the prince and many god emperors of his clan, as expected from the bold son of a ferocious beast. How could the child of a ferocious beast not be ferocious? "I will contact them immediately," the Rain Emperor quickly replied. He wanted to leave and avoid angering the Rain ancestor. Lin Tianjin said quickly, "I'll go with you." "Get lost right now." The Rain ancestor realized that they were worried that he would vent his fury on them. He was indeed angry. However, many emperors in his clan had died, and he didn't want more of them to be killed. It was fairly easy to recreate a clan, but it would take some time to nurture god emperors. The two emperors quickly and respectfully bid the ancestor farewell, and then left as fast as possible. They could obviously tell that the Rain ancestor had to be furious after fighting the ferocious beast for a long time and failing to kill Su Ping. Their life would be in danger if they stayed. Su Ping opened his eyes again, and he saw a bloody moon. He knew he had returned to the Chaos Perception Dragon's nest, which was at the border of a barbaric land home to many beasts. Only that mighty dragon could have built a nest there. "Thank you very much, Senior," said Su Ping to quickly offer thanks to his rescuer. The latter was lying there like a mountain. The Chaos Perception Dragon glanced at him coldly and sent a thought into his head. "If you want to die, that's fine, but leave it alone. It's the last bloodline of the Chaos clan. It's too dangerous to stick with you. I want it to stay." Chapter 1425, Training 1. Su Ping smiled bitterly. It was true, the dragon only helped because of the young Chaos beast. He said helplessly, "Senior, I'm also a member of the Chaos clan. Don't you think it would be a shame if I die?" "If you die, it's your own fault. You pissed off an ancestral god while not being strong enough. I wouldn't have helped you if it weren't for its sake," said the Chaos Perception Dragon with a snort. "Besides, the Chaos clan has many branches. You're not from our branch. However, I feel that the little one's bloodline is of the same origin as mine." Su Ping was speechless. In any case, he had been saved. He said, "Senior, I'll be eternally in your debt and I'll return the favor if there's ever a chance. As for the little beast, however, I don't think I can keep it here." Huh. The Chaos Perception Dragon instantly narrowed its eyes, releasing an intimidating aura. "Do you think I'll help you again if it's still by your side?" Su Ping shook his head. "Senior, you misunderstood. I'm simply not used to parting with it." Funny reason. The Chaos Perception Dragon was rather angry. "What can you do to ensure your safety? Hide here forever." Su Ping shook his head and replied, "I know what I'm doing. I'll be safe." "You would have been killed if I hadn't intervened," said the Chaos Perception Dragon coldly. Su Ping raised his head and looked at the latter. "Would you like to see if you can kill me?" "You think I don't dare?" The Chaos Perception Dragon was seething. At first it thought that Su Ping would accept that small request because of both the favor and its intimidation. Su Ping's stubbornness was unexpected. "I know that you dare. It's just that I have my own trump card. I can't tell you the details, but all in all, I'll be fine," said Su Ping. The dragon gazed at him, remembering the terrifying existence hiding behind Su Ping's back in their first encounter. Was that what the human is relying on? After a moment of silence, it said, "Give it to me, and I will certainly teach it everything I know and give it the most suitable and rarest medicines, all to activate its bloodline sooner and reach my level. It will be a good thing for the both of you." The massive senior stopped acting tough, choosing a gentler persuasion. Su Ping didn't expect that such a ferocious beast would give in. He slightly shook his head and said, "I appreciate your kindness, but I'm the first person it saw after hatching. We've never separated since then. I don't think it would get used to it. I know I wouldn't." "What kind of reason is that?" The Chaos Perception Dragon was angry. Su Ping heaved a sigh and said, "It's not an excuse. I hope you can forgive me." The Chaos Perception Dragon stared at Su Ping and imposed an extraordinary amount of pressure on him, only to discover that the young human didn't change his expression at all, seemingly oblivious to death. Such confidence made the beast be slightly convinced. How could this man be so calm without a trump card? His calmness was already rare in the world. "That's just your opinion. Why don't you ask the little one about what it thinks?" said the Chaos Perception Dragon. Su Ping's eyebrows rose a little, but he wasn't in a rush to disapprove. He simply canceled the merger. He also wanted to find out what the young Chaos beast was thinking. After all, it had to do with its future. "I don't need to think about it. I would rather stay with my master than go anywhere else. I don't want to become the strongest. Besides, even if I stay with my master, I can also become the strongest," said the young creature right after the fusion was dispelled. It then clung to Su Ping's leg and glared at the chaos perception dragon disdainfully. Its words and attitude almost made the great dragon pass out due to anger. It was the ultimate beast with the chaos bloodline born from nature itself. It was supposed to be above all living creatures, and yet it was forced to compromise. How useless, the chaos perception dragon roared. The smaller chaos beast's face was contorted, devoid of any fear. You're the useless one. I'll surpass you sooner or later. Still furious, the chaos perception dragon sneered. And you'll do that while following him. Keep dreaming. You're just wasting your bloodline. Don't you have anyone you wish to follow? Asked the young chaos beast without flying into a fit of rage. The former was stunned for a moment. The traces of countless years flashed in its eyes. Mottled, almost forgotten memories crawled back. Someone to follow. The beast remembered seeing a graceful woman standing in the world. Her fluttering clothes brushed it like a gentle hand. At that time, it was but a drakeling the size of a bear. The chaos perception dragon fell silent. After a long time, it finally said, "That's so stupid. If you follow me, I can make you grow strong at the fastest speed possible. Since you're following him, don't you want to protect him? How can you fight without strength?" The young chaos beast was stunned. It looked at Su Ping and hesitated. Su Ping chuckled and petted it. "I don't need your protection. I can protect you." The young chaos beast enjoying the touch of Su Ping's hand. It even narrowed its eyes in comfort. However, there was thoughtful light in the little one's eyes while enjoying the petting. "If you want to teach me, you can do so right now." "Why would you need me to stay?" asked the young chaos beast in a hurry. The senior beast said angrily, "You think cultivation is that simple? You're already a god king. To go further, you must find your Tao heart and then cultivate the undying universe to become an ancestral god. Both levels are extremely difficult to cross. How can you do that without giving it your full concentration?"